It's Locked On Giants Live with Traina, Entertainah, and the dog. Coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is sponsored by SimpliSafe Home Security. With Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe, 24/7 monitoring agents capture evidence to accurately verify a threat for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more. Let's get up and go, Giant fans. You got Traina, Entertainah, and the dog on this Friday night Locked On Giants Live.
You got the index cards.
All right, yay.
Very nice.
I am finally getting graded. I got a 7.5 for those of you who aren't seeing the video. I've been practicing my greetings, trying to give a little energy to it. But it is a Friday night. You have Locked On Giants Live. We're back with another episode. We're going to talk Giants, a bunch of stuff to talk about. The Detroit Lions on deck. I'm excited, guys. I mean, it just seems like the weeks now, they don't go fast enough. Whereas last year and in the past, they took forever to get, to get through the season. It seemed like the season was like 10 years as opposed to, 17 weeks. But here we are, the Detroit Lions on deck. How are we feeling about this game this weekend?
Good.
Okay.
Feeling good.
Okay.
Yeah, feeling good. That's a good way to put it. I'm feeling good too. I'm so confident. I like the way we match up with them. And we'll talk about it more throughout the stream, but I think we match up well with Detroit. I know a lot, and I'm not taking them for granted. They can put up points. They're a dangerous team, but I like the way this game sets up for the Giants. I'm pretty confident going in.
Yeah, you know what? At the start of the week, I worried it would be a trap game, with Dallas on deck. I know that a lot of those guys are itching to get back at the Cowboys because they just barely, lost to the Cowboys. If you think about it, back in week 3, they had them and they let it get away. Mm-hmm. So a bunch of guys, just in talking with them, I'm like, what's the mood? How are you guys feeling about this? And they were like, we have the Lions first. But, after that, all bets are off.
Yeah.
So that was reassuring to hear. Some of the guys, a lot of the guys I spoke with say Lions first, then we'll worry about the Cowboys. But you can tell when they say we'll worry about the Cowboys, they had that little gleam in their eye, like, we're going to get those suckers.
I hope so. We owe them, man. They've had our number for a few years, and it's payback time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, let's start breaking down this matchup with the Detroit Lions. Chris, you mentioned that you like the matchups. What matchups really appeal to you as far as, this game goes?
I love it. I think our offense is going to play really well in this game.
Yeah.
The defensive side, I worry, and we'll talk about that throughout the stream. But I think the Giants' identity is to set the pace, control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball, and win the time of possession, have long sustaining drives. And I think they're going to be able to do that relatively easily against Detroit. I don't think their defense is good at all. I think we're going to be able to run all over them. And they're prone to giving up big plays in the passing game. So if the Giants could start to get it going on the ground game, I do see some opportunities to potentially hit Slayton big. So I think the Giants are going to be able to control the ball on the offensive side. Defensively, I do worry, though. I'm not going to lie. And that's why I think we need to do a really good job in terms of having long drives and keeping their offense off the field. Because Detroit's offensive line is very underrated. Detroit's offensive line is one of the better ones in the National Football League. And if we can't get pressure on the quarterback, which hopefully we can, because our interior defensive line has been great, especially in recent weeks since Leonard Williams has really gotten back healthy from that injury. But if they do a good job keeping those guys in check, we could struggle in coverage. So I could see this being a tough matchup from a defensive standpoint, but I think we're going to be able to control the clock, and I think we're going to be able to milk the clock throughout this game. And because of that, I think the Giants are going to – it's not going to be a blowout, but I think we're going to get a win, and that's all that matters.
What do you think, Dog?
Yeah, excuse me, frog in the throat. I agree. I mean, we don't want to get in a shootout with Detroit. I think the best way to beat them is by keeping their offense off the field. That's kind of what we've done this year, the ability to convert on third down, the ability to run the ball. It's what we did against the Texans. We're not built to get in a shootout with Detroit. If we start throwing the ball around the field and we have 3 and outs, we might be in trouble in this game. So they're not a good run defensive team at all. And, Saquon Barkley obviously ran right through the Texans last week. I do think, like Chris said, there will be plays to be made in the passing game if we can establish the run, maybe a little play action, get some guys down the field. Detroit's defense is awful. They're one of the worst in the league. Both
Not one of them. They are the worst.
Yeah, so I think if
low.
we're ever going to put up 30 points in a week, it is this week. But we are going to have to score some touchdowns in this game. I don't think we can settle for 3. But like I said, we can have our 6-7 minute drives and sustained drives, convert third downs, keep them off the field. It's another team where they're not a good team. So step on them early. Don't allow them to think they're in the game, although they did come back against the Bears last week. So they're an explosive offense, but I do think that our strengths match up against their weaknesses. And I think Wink is going to have to find a way to get pressure on Jared Goff. But I definitely think that we can run the ball and sustain drives and convert third downs. I think the offense will play really well in this game.
Going back to your point, Taina, about the defensive worries that you have, who do you put on St. Brown? I mean,
That's
you
a
would
worry for me.
think that one worries me too. I mean, do you go with Darnay Holmes, or do you just say you have Adoree Jackson follow him wherever he goes?
That's a worry for me. And I'll tell you what, Darnay Holmes has been not very good in the slot this year. He has not been very good. And St. Brown is definitely the playmaker. Their running game is really good too. They have over, I think, like 1,100 yards rushing as a team this year. And it's not like they have a quarterback that runs. That's strictly from the running back position. So they have a dangerous duo there in the backfield too. After they lost Hawkinson, that helped us out a little bit after they traded him. But St. Brown, it's a great question you bring up. Maybe you do mirror him with Adoree Jackson, even though the guy does work a lot in the slot, because he's far and away their most dynamic playmaker in the passing game. That's probably what I would do, because I don't think I would trust Darnay Holmes in the slot matched up against like a guy like St. Brown. He's been great this year for the Lions.
Yeah, I have reservations about having Darnay Holmes in the slot against St. Brown. That matchup would really, really concern me. Another matchup that kind of concerns me just a little bit is Hutchinson versus the interior of the offensive line. Now, for those who might have missed the news, it looks like there's going to be a change on the offensive line. It doesn't look like Joshua Ezeudu is going to play. I don't know if he's going to be active or go on IR, but he's got that neck injury and had limited snaps. Shane Lemieux, it was reported, is going to be activated off of IR. So that'll give them an interior of Lemieux, John Feliciano, Mark Lewinsky. Now, I bring that up because Aiden Hutchinson, they move him around. Normally he lines up against the left tackle. Well, if I'm Detroit, I'm not putting him up against Andrew Thomas, because Andrew Thomas will wipe him out. I would put Aiden Hutchinson, I would move him around that interior, maybe run some stunts or just somehow get him so that he's challenging the interior of the Giants offensive line. Is that a concern for you guys?
Well, I mean, we run a lot of 2 tight end sets for that reason. We really, our offensive line isn't great, but yeah, Hutchinson's a great player. So obviously a defensive player like that's going to worry you. But this is when you have an aggressive guy like that. Sometimes, I don't know what their blocking scheme is going to be, but maybe you run some counter plays or you run some quick screen. I'm surprised the Giants haven't gotten Saquon Barkley more involved in the passing game. But if they can't run, I still think you have to try to establish the run. And if you can't get up the middle, if Hutchinson's blowing everything up, then maybe you do start looking at running maybe a jet sweep, or you run one of those bubble screens or a screen to Saquon to try to get the defenders up the field and take themselves out of the play. So it'll be interesting to see how they start. The one thing Chris and I talked about last night is something this team does very well, the Giants, is they make adjustments. So if Hutchinson's finding a way to get in there, I'm sure the Giants will figure it out and adjust in the second half. But yeah, he's definitely going to be a headache. He's a really good player. No question about it.
Yeah. Now, I'm looking for my injury report because the Lions center, I think he practiced, right? I'm trying to find my injury report.
I didn't get a chance to see the updated one today. I didn't get a chance.
I'm looking this real quick because somebody said, "Oh, is that the center?" Here it is. I found it. All right, let's see what it says here. I'll tell you what the injury report says. Just opening it up real quick. I think he's going to, let's see what he is listed as. Excuse me. All right. So the center is, all right. So Taylor, all right. I'm sorry. The one that was declared out was Josh Pasha, defensive lineman with a knee injury. Frank Ragnow, the center, is questionable. He was limited on Friday after not practicing Wednesday and Thursday. But I had heard that, he's going to give it a go, that he'll be active and he's going to give it a go, barring any kind of setback, of course. Josh Reynolds, wide receiver, is questionable. Deshaun Elliott, safety, is in the concussion protocol. He's questionable. Malcolm Rodriguez, linebacker, is questionable. And defensive lineman Charles Harris is out. So that's the injury report for Detroit. For the Giants, Bellinger is out. Neal is doubtful. I think we see Neal for Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. Dexter Lawrence is questionable. That was kind of a surprise that Dexter Lawrence showed up on the injury report. Because initially I thought it was just going to be a maintenance day for him on Wednesday, but he had that back issue as well. Dane Belton, questionable. Golladay is questionable. As is
He's always questionable, whether he's injured or not. He's always questionable.
Who's that?
Golladay, whether he's injured or not, he's questionable.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, true. It's funny, though, because in the locker room the other day, it was almost as though he suggested he wasn't as badly injured as maybe people thought. I mean, that's the impression I got. So I'm just wondering, look, and let me ask you guys this, because, this is, we saw Golladay, didn't have a good game last week, but this week he would be going up against his old team. Do you give him one more chance and say to yourself, look, if going against your old team doesn't uncork what you can do for us, then what will? Or do you just say, you know what, Kenny, you had your opportunities, sit your butt down. We're going to play guys who want to play and who want to contribute.
I think he might get a little bit of a chance, but it's not because of the circumstance of the Lions. It's because we don't have anybody else. Especially if Wandell doesn't play. You figure Richie James will get more snaps in the slot, but I think you'll see some reps, but I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that he's playing his former team. I think it has to do with the fact that the Giants don't have anybody else really to put out there. But I'm not going to go into this game expecting anything out of Kenny Golladay. I'm going for the rest of the year with the mindset of if he does something great, but I don't expect anything. He completely crapped the bed last week with the drop, looked lost, and a lot of the fan base was getting behind him. I'm not trying to put raised expectations on him. I don't expect much from Golladay in this game.
I think with Golladay, it's mental at this point. I don't know if it's just in his head. I don't know if he's thinking too much of this. Sometimes I think that happens. He hasn't played a lot. When he's had his opportunities, dropped all the passes. It's kind of like guys that end up fumbling. It gets in your head a little bit. And you're thinking, oh my God, ball's coming at me. I got to catch it. Next thing you know, you drop it instead of just, reacting and doing what you do best, which is catch the football. Like Chris said, I don't know if it'll be like a revenge game for him against Detroit, but obviously, you got to give the guy, you got to keep giving him chances. I mean, if he's getting paid all that money and he's supposed to be our best receiver, you got to hope at some point this clicks. If the Giants are going to take that next step, especially offensively, we're going to need him. And hopefully he can figure it out. He hasn't figured it out all year. He hasn't figured it out since he's been here, really. He's dealt with injuries, he's dealt with drops, he's dealt with a lot of stuff. I just feel like he just needs that one game where he has 7 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown. It just gets out of his head and he contributes and he gets his confidence back.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Kenny Galladay's low on confidence. And we've talked about this before. Confidence goes a long way with a football player. And I think right now, his confidence level's low. So if he could just get a couple of easy catches underneath him, get him involved early, throw him an easy pass. And like I said, one of those screens or a quick slant or something, just try to get him in, just back to being Kenny Golladay, just going out there and catching the ball, not thinking about it, just doing his thing. I'm still pulling for him. Like I said, we're going to need him. We're very thin at that position. And I'm hoping that he figures it out one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And look, there is one thing about Golladay that it just seems like every time he opens his mouth and gets on this subject, for some reason, an alarm bell goes off in my head. He talks about, I'm here to play for my teammates. Okay, fine. I'm cool with that. But when the subject of the coaches comes up, it's almost like he's, the coaches they're there. They're just there, but I'm not playing for them. I'm playing for my teammates. They're part of the team, the coaches. I mean, if you know what I mean, I get what he's trying to say. His teammates are his brothers, but the coaches are part of the family. So how
Absolutely.
can you sit there and say,
He's probably
be
not
so
happy.
flippant?
He's
Right.
probably not happy that the coaching staff isn't playing him enough. That's
Right.
probably
But how could you sit there and be flippant about it? And that's the impression I've gotten from him going back to the summertime. Whatever's going on with what they're asking him to do or what they're not asking him to do, it just seems like they're not on the same page. That's the impression I get. And it just seems like every time Golladay talks, that comes up. And I'm like, I'd love to know, and I've tried to find out and, haven't had much luck, but it just seems like, you listen to the other players and they talk about how the coaches put them in good positions and they teach him stuff and whatnot. And then you hear Golladay and he's like, it's almost like the coaches are an afterthought with him.
Yeah, he, like Chris said, he's probably not happy. I mean, even in training camp, a lot of people were getting on his case saying he wasn't giving 100% effort. And we heard Dable say the guys that give 100% effort are going to be the ones on the field. And Golladay didn't get a ton of snaps early in the year. And then he came out with, I should be playing regardless. I should be out there. And I don't know how well that sat with the coaches. It was obvious from day one that Dable, Kafka, and company were going to go with the guys that they felt gave the best effort. Kadarius Toney is probably our most talented wide receiver, and didn't seem like they were very high on him right from the beginning. And obviously, he's in Kansas City now. He's playing well there, which Kadarius Toney should play well there. I mean, you can't be in a better situation as a wide receiver than having a guy like Pat Mahomes throw to you with Andy Reid as your head coach and guys like Travis Kelce out there, and they just have an explosive offense. He should be good there, but he didn't work out here. And again, maybe this has something to do with the effort. I mean, I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know what the deal is.
But here's my theory about that, and I think this might apply also to Golladay. When there's a change in coaching staffs, it's like anything. If you're on your job and your manager leaves, and then somebody else comes in, and you were close to your manager, and now you got this totally different person who comes in, it takes a while to build up that chemistry again with that person. And sometimes you never quite build it up the way you had it with your previous manager. So I wonder if perhaps with Toney as well as with Golladay, where they may be a little closer to, Joe Judge, or, maybe Joe Judge handled them a little differently than Dable. Because Joe Judge, I don't want to say he babied people because he didn't, but he had his guys. I mean, I think we can all agree he had his guys. Dable, I don't think really has his guys. It's not like, he's shown that, yes, he brought in a bunch of Buffalo players, but, like Antonio Williams was cut. Okay. So it's not like he's going to hang on to these guys if they're useless, So I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that has a lot to do with it, that we knew this coming in, that none of these guys had any ties to Shane or Dable. And there's going to be certain guys that they don't necessarily think fit what they're looking to do, whether it be because of their practice habits, whether it be because they don't fit the offense that they're looking to run, which I never thought that Golladay did. I said that before the year started in my videos. I remember a lot of people asking me questions why I said that in my videos. I didn't think he fit the scheme at all. I think he's a horrible fit for this scheme. And I think the coaching staff identified that at the beginning of the year. They didn't care how much money the guy made.
Well,
they didn't think he'd help this football team.
Well, just to your point, I had Mike Pritchard on the show this week, and I asked him specifically about that. I said, Mike, a lot of people feel that Golladay isn't a fit for this system. I said, what can you tell us about, what do you think of that? And he made a really good point. And, for what it's worth, Mike said, and this show I think ran on Wednesday for those who want to check it out. It was a really good interview. I highly recommend it. Pritchard said to me that when you think about it, how many times a game is a receiver asked to actually run a pattern and catch the ball? what does he get? Like maybe 5 to 7 targets, if that much. And a game is what, 60 plus, offensive snaps if you're lucky. So he says, if you see a guy playing 60, 70, 80% of the snaps, what's he doing on the other snaps? He said, you're blocking.
Mhm.
There are some guys that just want to run and catch the ball, and that's it. And they don't want to be bothered getting their hands dirty with blocking. And then you got guys who say, okay, coach, whatever you need me to do. You want me to catch the ball? I'll catch the ball. You want me to block? I'll block. So maybe that's a part of the thing. Golladay, I don't know how many targets he got in Detroit. I'd have to look it up. But, there is a degree of blocking. Maybe Golladay with how he's feeling physically, because I know there's been some debate as to whether he's, he's still healthy or he's healthy again. Maybe he just feels like, look, that ship has sailed. I don't want to have to block, target me if you're going to put me out there.
I was going to say, at least from what I've seen and heard, Galladay's actually been a pretty good blocker for the Giants this year. But he may not like doing it.
That could be it.
But he's actually been a pretty good blocker for the Giants this year. I will give him credit for that, but not much else.
Yeah.
But maybe that does have something to do with it.
But that I just I thought that was a good point, because if you're asking a guy to block on every play, a receiver to block on every play, and you're only targeting him a couple of times, that might not sit well with him. He might be like, the heck with this. You pay running backs to block, you pay offensive linemen to block, you pay me to catch the ball. And what are you doing here? So I don't know. That's just a theory I have.
Yeah, it's the Golladay thing is weird. The Kadarius Toney thing's been weird since they drafted him. He always had some issue, whether it was his shoes, whether it was COVID, whether it was whatever. I can never put my finger on what the deal was with him.
I think with Kadarius Toney, I mentioned it before, with Joe Judge, they had the impression I always got is they had a good relationship, a really good relationship. They were on the same page. Dable is not Judge. He's not going to sit there and coddle guys. I have yet to see or hear of an instance where he coddles somebody.
No, I mean, look at the way he tore Anderson a
new
one.
Exactly. He tore Daniel Jones a new one, way back in the start of the season.
Yeah.
So, listen,
he was
Dable.
That was a Parcellsian reaction.
Yep, exactly. That's what I thought of too. But Dable, look, I think he's a caring guy. He cares about his players. He wants them to succeed. Just look at how he's putting them into good positions to succeed. But if you screw up, if you don't hold up your end of the bargain, guess what? You're going to get ripped out on. You're not going to get the practice reps. You're not going to get the game reps. You're not going to get a game day uniform. I don't think that's asking a whole lot of a guy who's making a lot of money to come in, practice your butt off, prepare yourself the right way and contribute. I don't think Dable's being unrealistic.
No, not at all.
So it doesn't matter what they ask you to do. You're getting paid to help the football team win. Whether they ask you to block, whether they ask you to catch the ball, whether they ask you to return punts, whatever they ask you to do, that's what they're paying you for.
Exactly.
Yes, your main job is to catch the football if they throw it to you, but you have to do so. Every play you have an assignment on every play. So, and if the ball comes your way, you're supposed to catch it. And we haven't seen a lot of Kenny Golladay. And when the ball's come his way this year, he hasn't caught it. So, again, I think that right from the very beginning, Brian Dable and Kafka, they just, again, a lot of people said Kenny Golladay was dogging it in training camp, and I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I did see some videos, and he certainly wasn't running crisp routes. It looked like he was kind of rounding them off, and he was a little bit lazy on things, and they noticed that. And that's why, Dable said right at the beginning, I'm going to put the guys out there that are giving the best effort. And he didn't care that it was Kadarius Toney was the 20th overall pick or that Kenny Golladay makes $72 million.
Yeah.
And it showed right from day one. I mean, Kadarius Toney had 7 snaps in the first game, and Golladay, didn't play a lot either. So, and we're still 7-2. So
yeah.
It's going to show that they haven't needed him,
Exactly.
but it would be nice to have that tall guy that can go, up in the red zone to catch a fade pattern in the end zone, to be a big red zone target. It'd be nice to have a guy.
Maybe it'll be Hodgins.
Yep.
Maybe it'll be Hodgins.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let me ask you this. Detroit promises to be a really, really rough game in terms of it's going to be physical. Dan Campbell is going to have those guys ready to roll in here. It's going to be a brawl, a good old fashioned street yard brawl. So I'm going to ask you guys a question that I got actually for my Giants Country mailbag, and I want to see what you think. Given the anticipation that this is going to be a really physical, hard-fought game, I was asked, and I'll tell you what my answer is before I let you guys answer. I was asked if it makes sense to maybe scale back a little bit on some of the snaps for some of the guys, given that, it's an NFC game, but, Dallas is the first in the division, first of 5 in the division. Do you want to maybe save up, especially since the game is 4 days later? And my response, spoiler alert, is I don't think Dable's going to do that. I think he's going to just say, look, the game plan is what it is. We're rolling with it. If we have to run Saquon 100 times, we'll run him 100 times. If we have to play Dexter Lawrence 90% of the snaps, we'll do that. That's how I feel. I mean, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, listen, I do think I don't think they can run Saquon 35 times again. Let's put it that way, because you're going to be playing 2 games in 4 days now after he just had 35 carries. But if people were asking, do I think that they should rest some of these players and not play them their normal allotment of snaps? No. This is a must-win game for this football team.
Mm-hmm.
They have to win this game. Like, you look at the rest of their schedule, this is a game they got to win. They're at home. And it's going to be tough going up against the Dallas in 4 days. So absolutely not. And that's not in the makeup of this football team. And I know Brian Dable's not going to do that, but no, the New York Giants got to put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I completely agree. You beat the team in front of you. You worry about Dallas when you play Dallas. Like Chris said, you have to win this football game. This is a must win. This is the last team we're playing. I mean, depending on what Washington does. But right now, you look at the schedule after Detroit. This is the only team with a losing record. The rest of them are 500 or better. You have 5 divisional games. Get every single win. Every win counts the same. I mean, I know the tiebreaker and stuff. Obviously, divisional games mean a little bit more. But you have to win, because if you sit here and screw around with Detroit, don't play your guys all the snaps, you lose the game to Detroit, then you go to Dallas and they still beat you, then what did it solve?
Nothing.
Win this game, worry about Dallas on Thanksgiving. You got to beat the team in front of you. And like you said, Patricia, if you got to run Saquon 100 times to win the game, you run him 100 times and you worry about Thursday. I don't think Saquon will run 35 times again. I do think they'll split the carries, but if you need to use a heavy dose of Saquon to win the game, and he's been successful, you got to keep doing it. You can't go, well, listen, we're up 24 to 13 here in the fourth quarter, and we have the ball with 9 minutes to go. We're going to stop running Saquon. I'm just going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So, yeah, you gotta win this game. Whatever it takes to win this game, worry about Dallas when we get to Dallas.
I mean, if it's a blowout, and I don't think it'll be a blowout.
I got an idea.
Yeah.
I got an idea.
What's that?
How about we play hard now, win the division, and get a bye so we can have a week off during the playoffs? How about that?
I'd sign up for that. I think
get your rest then.
There you go.
Or like Patricia said, how about we blow these guys out?
Blow
how
them
about
out,
31 to 10 in the fourth quarter?
Yep. Yeah,
that'd be nice. A blowout. That'd be great.
That would be great too. I mean, I think they would sign up for that too. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a brawl, like you said.
I'm sorry, not Detroit. Dallas. Obviously, they're looking at the Giants. They have a tough game against Minnesota. Do you think Dallas is going, well, maybe we ought to rest our guys against Minnesota because we got the Giants coming up on Thursday? No. So, no, you can't. You got to win the game. Whatever it takes to win the game. The winning games in the NFL are so difficult. When you have a chance to win, you got to win. You got whatever it takes.
NFL is about surviving advance. It's not about style points. It doesn't matter how pretty you lose. It does not carry over week to week. It's about winning, and that's it. And you do whatever you have to win each and every Sunday. It is hard enough to win. You see upsets every week that nobody expects to see. Anybody could beat anybody in this league. You can't take any opponent for granted, and every win is just as important as any other win. New York Giants have to go out there and play this game like it's any other game on their schedule, and they will. They're not going to rest up for the Thanksgiving game.
Yes, absolutely agree. So we all agree. And that's that again, spoiler alert, is kind of what I wrote in my mailbag, which drops tomorrow on Giants Country. All right, guys, let's talk KT, Kayvon Thibodeaux. Now, this week, Wink Martindale was asked about Thibodeaux because he's only had the one sack. And we all know that there are people out there who think sacks are sexy, and that is the be all end all for measuring the effectiveness of a outside linebacker or a pass rusher. We know that's not true, though. So that said, what do you think of what you've seen from Kayvon Thibodeaux? I think starting off, he had the knee injury, he was coming back, took him a couple weeks or so to kind of get in gear, so to speak. But I think I see improvement in him every week. And no, he's not getting home. But like Wink said, he's kind of opening things up for other guys to get home or to make plays.
I say it all the time. Statistics tell half the story. The same people that are saying, "Oh, Kayvon Thibodeaux is a bust because he has one sack," are the same people going, "Oh, Daniel Jones, he stinks. He's only thrown 8 touchdowns all year. He's not the quarterback." They don't pay attention to everything else that he does. They threw 17 times. He had almost a perfect quarterback rating. He's doing what they ask him to do. Kayvon Thibodeaux, like you said, Pat, he's opening up things for Dexter Lawrence. He's opening up things for Leonard Williams. He's a disruptor. He gets in the backfield. He changes the play. Just because you don't get a sack doesn't mean you're not contributing. Some people just look at statistics as, like you said, the end-all be-all. Well, he's got one sack. He stinks. Or Leonard Williams only has how many sacks? He stinks. But Leonard Williams may help Dexter Lawrence, vice versa. So no, I think Thibodeaux gets better every week. I think he gets held all the time. Mm-hmm. And when you're getting held all the time, it's because you're doing something right. And I think it's only a matter of time before he does have that big game, but I'm certainly not ready to give up on him. I think he tries extremely hard. He's a big energy guy. He gives 150%. The sacks will come. But right now, his job is to get better every week. Learn the NFL blocking schemes, learn how to sell that holding call, learn how to, maneuver around some of these linemen and get better. That's what his job is. And like I said, by the end of the year, I think that he'll figure it out.
Yeah, here's my take on Kayvon Thibodeaux. What were fans saying about Andrew Thomas after his rookie year?
That he was garbage.
What were fans saying about Dexter Lawrence's first 3 years in the league? He's okay. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
It takes different players different amounts of time to develop as football players. And they're not asking Kayvon to just line up on the line of scrimmage every single play and attack the quarterback. A lot of times they drop it back in coverage. A lot of times he creates double teams. You don't think he has anything to do with the fact that Dexter Lawrence playing as well as he is because he's commanding more attention off the edge? And the other thing I'm going to say about Kayvon Thibodeaux this year, what I love about Kayvon Thibodeaux, and you heard the complete opposite about Thibodeaux coming into the pros. Somebody said in the chat, his motor, his effort. I go back to a game, I think it was like week 3 or week 4, where we gave up like a huge 50-yard run. He was 10, 15 yards behind the running back. I think it was against Jacksonville, actually, ETN, where he broke up. The guy came out like a shark, and he chased him down the field. To me, his effort is off the charts. His motor's off the charts. His physical skill set is off the charts. To me, he's a rookie. And as Giants fans, we should know that better than anybody. We were ragging on Andrew Thomas. He's a rookie that has plus physical attributes. And as he gets more accustomed to the NFL, as he learns a spin move and, gets better in terms of his, like a lot of edge rushers do in year 2, and he gets stronger, he puts on more muscle, he's going to be a beast. He's got all the intangibles for me in terms of the physical attributes, in terms of the effort, in terms of everything you hear about him from within the locker room. I am very impressed with Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think I don't care what the sack numbers say. I think he's off to a great start as a Giant.
Yep, I think he is too. And somebody put it in the chat. They said, Wink's defense isn't so much about sacks as it is about getting pressure. Mm-hmm. So and he's look, I had to look up Michael Strahan's numbers. I was curious. Michael Strahan in 1993 as a rookie, 1 sack. All right, he played in 9 games, had 1 sack. 1994, 4.5 sacks. All right, but as he got better, By 97, 14 sacks, 98, 15 sacks, 2001, 22 and a half sacks. He had double-digit sacks. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in his career.
Oshie Manor had one sack.
OC's another, exactly. So I think we need to be patient with Thibodeaux. He's a rookie. Yeah. Is he going to benefit from, an off season in the weight room? Absolutely. Is he going to benefit as he continues to learn the tricks of the trade? And as you said, Chris, learning how to sell when he's being held and stuff like that. Absolutely. This is all stuff that's new to him that he's learning. Once he gets it down, look out, world.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Jason Pierre-Paul too. Jason Pierre-Paul, his rookie year, I think he had like 3 or 4 sacks. Second year, could easily won Defensive Player of the Year. So players progress at different times. He has the physical potential. He has the coaching to get the most out of his physical potential. He's going to be damn good. I can't wait for him to hit his peak.
And also, when Azeez Ojulari gets healthy, I think that'll also help out Kayvon Thibodeaux. That's going to help everybody out. Like, that's a big piece missing from our front seven. You get a guy like that with that athletic skill. You got 2 of the same type of guys that are full effort, full motor guys that are incredibly athletic and just physically gifted. You put those 2 guys in the end with Lawrence and, Leo in the middle, you're really going to have something. I hope Azeez can play this year. I'm patiently waiting for him to get back because I really want to see what happens when you do have those 2 guys, as linebackers, what Wink can do with that. So I think Thibodeaux has been fine. Again, I don't just sit here and look at statistics. I'm not a big statistic guy. The only stat I really care about is winning. And we've been doing a lot of that this year. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
Exactly. It's like Wink says, it's a positionless defense. Everybody plays off of one another. And if everybody's doing what they're supposed to, you see the results, whether it's Dexter getting the sack or Leo or Thibodeaux or somebody else. They have different ways to generate the pressure and to get the sacks. And, for the first time, and I know a lot of people, I guess the fantasy football players are like, oh, the Giants don't have a lot of sacks. They don't have a lot of interceptions. No, I mean, it would be great if they did. Don't get me wrong, but they're winning. They're getting the job done. They have the best, one of the top third down defenses in the league.
Second in the league.
Second in the league. They're also pretty good on goal to go, I think, or so. I mean,
I want to look about a red zone defense because
their red zone defense is up there too. I don't remember what it is, but
it's up second in red zone defense.
Yeah. So I mean, those are 2 key situational stats. Very key, and they're getting it done despite not being at the top of the sack list, despite not being at the top of pass breakups or interceptions and stuff like that. I don't know about you guys, but I'll take that.
Listen, as long as we're winning. I mean, think about it. We're winning without getting a ton of sacks and interceptions. So when that happens, it's only going to benefit everybody else. And it will happen eventually. But yeah, if Thibodeaux has one sack, I'd much rather have Thibodeaux have 1 sack and be 7-2 as opposed to him having 10 sacks and being 2-7. That's just, I don't care about individual stats. I say this all the time on my channel. I am not a player guy. I am a team guy. I root for the logo. I don't root for the name on the back. Yeah, I have my favorites, like everybody. But, if, like I said, I'd much rather these statistics be what they are and our biggest statistic be 7-2. Like, I'd much rather be 7-2 than 2-7 and Daniel Jones is having a career passing season. Well, he might be having a career passing season anyway, but you get my point. I'd rather be 7-2 and him have 8 passing touchdowns and me 2-7 and have 20 passing touchdowns. I want to win games. It's all I care about as a Giants fan.
Yes, absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
I look at another key stat I just saw. Giants right now are 6th in the NFL in turnover differential as well.
Mm-hmm. Which not bad. Not bad for the defense.
Hold on to the ball.
Not bad. Not bad. 4. Guys, I got to ask you now. Let's go back to the offense side because I went around and I asked some of the offensive linemen in the locker room about this. How did we like that super jumbo package? Was that not amazing? I talked to our buddy Nick Gates, as I always do every week. Nick had a little cold, by the way. Hopefully he's feeling better. Nick, if you're watching, I hope you're feeling better, my friend. And I said,
if you're watching, you got to get on the show. I want to talk.
Yes.
One time.
Yeah, I know.
One time.
But so I said to him, I said, what do you call that package? I said, that was so genius. And he just lit up and he said, I know. He says, have you ever seen that before? I said, no, I don't think I've ever seen 8 offensive linemen on the field before. He goes, neither have I. And I said to him, they had you moving all over the formation as the tight end and you were in the backfield. I said, that was pretty cool. He goes, I never did that before. And he just it was like he was so excited talking about it. And I just thought that was brilliant by Kaepernick because it actually helped it not only helped the offensive line, but it mitigated, I think, some of the loss of not having Daniel Bellinger in there, who was I think we can agree was their best blocker before he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was a creative way. And we talk about coaching all the time. This staff comes up with ways to counter losses and deficiencies that they identify on the roster. And my gosh, isn't it beautiful to watch, guys?
It definitely is. You mentioned a few shows back, Pat. This coaching staff doesn't only have a plan B, they have a plan C, a plan D. They have like something planned for every situation. They're very well prepared. And what makes them great coaches is they have all the players prepared. And that's why, even though we're down to the nitty gritty, we got practice squad guys in there. We're thin at every position, got so many injuries, but yet we don't really fall off that much. It doesn't matter who we put in there. It just seems these guys always do their job. The only thing I can say with a jumbo package, I can remember when I was really young, the 86 Giants, I can remember Bill Parcells putting a lineman, I think his name was Damian Johnson. He used to put him in the backfield,
yeah,
I remember. The goal line in front of Joe Morris. So they would have like Bavaro, Mowat, and then they'd have the 5 offensive linemen, and they'd have Damian Johnson in the backfield. That's the closest thing I can remember. But I know Chris liked the jumbo package because Chris likes them big hogs up front.
Love them. Oh, I was at the game. I was super pumped up when I saw that, and they've been using Gates a lot like that. But yeah, if it was up to me, I draft an offensive lineman in the first round every year. So I love it. This is my style of football. I love this type of football. I know a lot of fans like to air it out, and they like when teams throw the ball.
Old-fashioned Northeast Giants football.
I love
Smack
it.
them in the mouth.
I love it. You give me, and of course, I want a team that's capable of doing both. But I love a team with an identity like this. I love smash mouth football, control the pace of play, and just beat them down physically. To me is much more impressive. Personally, everybody's got their own opinion. To me, it's much more impressive when a team knows what you're going to do, and you don't go out there and you sling the rock 40 or 50 times. You say, no, we're just going to out-muscle you this entire game. We're going to jam the ball down your throat, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. That's my style of football. That's love
what we did
stuff.
in 2008. That was the way we played in 2008. Eli threw 21 touchdowns in 2008. We ran the ball down everyone's throat, especially before Burris got hurt. You couldn't stop them. They ran through
2 1,000-yard rushers that year.
Yeah, and Ahmad Bradshaw averaged over 5 yards a carry. They averaged 5 yards a carry as a team that year. And I can remember Baltimore hadn't allowed like a team to rush for 100 yards against them in like 30 games. The Giants put up over 200 against them.
They put on a blocking. I remember that.
They blew them out. Like that was the best. I've seen all the 86 team. That 2008 team was special before the thing with Burris. I still think that's the best team I've ever seen because the 86 team was kind of shoddy on offense until they got to the playoffs. Then they really kind of took off. But that 2008 team, man, they were top 5 in offense and defense. This team, I've said it earlier in the year, reminds me, and again, I'm not saying we're winning the Super Bowl. We don't have the talent of that 1990 football team, but that's the way they played in 1990.
100%.
Phil Simms was not throwing the ball all over the place. They had 2 decent receivers in Ingram and Baker, but it was O.J. Anderson and that big offensive line that was smashing you in the mouth, controlling the clock, beating the opponent down and making them submit. That's what you want to do. And then you relied on your tough defense, obviously led by Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks. That was what they did. And it was very effective. At the end of the day, no matter how much the rules change, no matter how much you throw the ball around, the game is still won in the trenches. And that's what the Giants are doing right now.
Yep. Old school
and you know when this style of play is more effective? When the weather gets cold, when the weather gets
which it's going to be Sunday.
Gets a little windy. That's when you want this identity of a football team come playoff time. So I would not be surprised at all. I frequently compared it to the Jets because they remind me a little bit of that Jets team that went to 2 AFC title games with Rex Ryan, a brand new head coach. They were built around the ground game with Sean Green and Thomas Jones. They went into the playoffs. They went to 2 straight AFC title games. They beat Tom Brady in Foxborough playing this style of football. You could win games in the playoffs playing this style of football. There's no doubt about it. I've seen several teams do it.
It's kind of like baseball, man. You know, you can have a great offense, or you get into the playoffs, you're facing really good pitching. And that's the kind of the way when teams get into the postseason, they're not getting there by accident. Except for maybe 2020. I mean, our division was pretty bad. Washington kind of did get there by default. But, you know, like you said, Chris, if you are able to run the ball and control the clock, you're going to have a chance to win every game because teams aren't going to be able to get away from you.
Yep.
If you start going 3 and out because you can't run the ball and you're 3rd down and 11 and you're throwing the ball and defenses know what's coming, it's tough to convert 3rd and 11s. When you can run the ball, it's 3rd and 2, and you got a mobile quarterback like Daniel Jones and everything in the playbook's open, it keeps defenses guessing. You convert a lot of 3rd downs. You continue to push the chains. You chew up the clock. You wear down the defense. And like you said, especially in the Northeast in the winter, for us that live up here, and it's terrible up here. I don't like the winter. That is the way you win. Like, especially in MetLife, or, you know, in the Northeast when it's really windy, you don't want to have to throw the ball around. So a team that can run the ball up here.
Jalen Hurts is going to throw, BadDog. How do you think Jalen Hurts is going to throw when it's 25, 30 mile an hour winds?
He'll run
25 degrees. But my point is these teams that are going out here, throwing it, slinging their cold weather, they don't play the same style of football.
Nope. And that's where the Giants, with this identity that they have built up, might be able to grab an advantage. Yeah. So that's why, you know, it's not necessarily how you start, it's how you finish. And this is the time of year you want, A, your team to be healthy, and B, you want your team to be firing on all cylinders. And Giants are there. They're getting there, you know, as far as, you know, the passing game. Okay. We know it is what it is. Until they get some really good receivers, they're going to have to make do with what they got.
It's limited, but it's effective.
Right. But I think they can function with what they have. And speaking of which, guys, we talked about it a little bit in the beginning of the show, but let me ask you this. If this Giant team has to get into a shootout with the Lions, how do you think they fare? Do you think they're built to handle it, or does that make you nervous if that situation comes about?
That'd make me nervous. We're not built like that. So the reason being, that's the way Detroit wants to play. You want to make them play our game. I still think we can pass on these guys. I definitely do. I think their defense is really bad. And like I said, if Daniel Jones going to have a breakout game or we're going to score 30 points, this is a good team to do it against. But if we're running the ball effectively, I don't think we're going to see that. I honestly don't know. We haven't really seen the Giants have to get in a shootout this year. I think Jones is good enough to do it, but it's not what I would want as a Giants fan, because that's kind of putting us out of our element, and he hasn't been asked to do that this year. So I'd much rather ground and pound, if you're asking me.
We're not equipped to be a shootout team, and it has nothing to do with Daniel Jones. It has everything to do with everything else on the roster. We don't have the weapons. Our offensive line is still, in my opinion, below average. It's why we have to run so many 2 tight end sets, leave Saquon Barkley in to help block. We're still limited as an overall offense. So the Giants know that. We're not built to get into shootouts. Is Daniel Jones capable? Sure. If he has people to throw to and his wide receivers are getting open, but that's not the strength of this football team. The strength of this football team is Saquon Barkley and chewing up the clock. And I'm going to tell you another thing. If we get into a shootout and we don't dominate the time of possession, it's going to make our defense worse too. A major reason why our defense has been so effective, they're only on the field for 26 minutes, 27 minutes.
Completely reverse on what it's been for years with this team.
Yeah, you ask that defense to perform for 33 minutes, 32 minutes, you're not going to have the same results. So the Giants cannot get away from their strengths as a football team because they're going up against a team that could score 30 points. No, you limit their time of possessing the ball, and in doing so, they won't put up as many points.
And that's part of, I think that's part of the reason our run defense isn't great, because I think that Wink Martindale's saying, okay, we want to shorten the game. We want to make them also take time off the clock so they're not scoring in 2 minutes. If it takes them 7 minutes to score, perfect.
Yep.
That even though that may wear down our defense, but it's like that bend don't break. We're not going to give up the gigantic chunk plays, but we'll allow you to run a little bit, kind of like we did. And again, they're going back to 1990, where it's like, Thurman, go run wild. Jim
Yeah.
Kelly and the K-Gon, James Lofton, Andre Reed, you guys aren't beating us. We're not letting you go bing, 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 bing down the field in 3 minutes. So we're going to make you work for it. And I think that's also part of the Giants game plan is, again, we don't want to have limited possessions are good, especially for, the opposition. So,
and when you do that, when you make them grind, even like you said, if they do score a touchdown, more of an opportunity they may fumble the football, more of an opportunity they may have a holding penalty, a full start penalty.
Right.
They make mistakes to beat themselves. So I think the Giants each and every week have come out with the game plan, like you said, knowing they're not a complete defense, knowing they still have some vulnerabilities in that defense, and based off the opponent they're playing, they say, all right, this week we're going to give up more in the passing game. We're going to focus more on the run. The next week they may do the opposite. So that's why I think you've seen them get, like this past week, we did a great job against the run where we were not doing good against the run in previous.
Because we were worried about Pierce, and they said,
and Mills threw for 300 yards. So I think it's like week to week, the Giants pick their spots of where they're going to focus defensively.
Which is smart.
And they get torched the other way, but they know they have limitations and they get the most out of it. And the most important thing is the two stats we talked about earlier. Second in the NFL in red zone defense. Second. So they're giving up a lot of yards, but they're not giving up points when the teams get inside the 20. And second in third down defense. And
that's huge because, the last couple of years, Chris, you and I be doing the games, it'd be 3rd and 14, and they convert. They're like, what are we doing? Like, how do you not stop that? Like, those are backbreakers. And when your defense can get off the field on 3rd down, that's huge. It is a complete role reversal. And to use fantasy statistics, I was very happy. The Giants won. I had Davis Mills on my fantasy team, so 300 yards and a couple of touchdowns. I took it very well. I was happy that he had good stats and lost. That's what fantasy football is for. Okay. I would have been more mad if they won. I wouldn't have cared. I would have rather Davis Mills thrown 3 picks and me lose my fantasy week than the Giants lose. I don't care about fantasy football.
You're a trooper, dog. I love it. I love it. All right, folks, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll start answering some of your questions. So if you have questions, pop them in the comments box, and we'll be right back after this. This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Tommy John. With the weather so unpredictable nowadays, you need to start with underwear that can handle any temperature or condition. Tommy John underwear. Tommy John underwear is comfortable to wear. Their breathable, lightweight fabric has 4 times the stretch of competing brands. They come with a no wedgie guarantee, thanks to a non-rolling waistband and legs that never ride up. With over 17 million pairs sold, people love Tommy John underwear. That's why Tommy John doesn't have customers, they have fanatics. Plus, everything is back with Tommy John's best pair you'll ever wear or its free guarantee. So go to TommyJohn.com/lockedon right now to save 20% off your first order. Again, that website is TommyJohn.com/lockedon to receive 20% off your first order. See site for details. Thanks so much, Giant fans, for making the Locked On Giants podcast your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants Live. Locked On Giants Live, Traina, and Dog. Oh, I got a 6. That's lower than my last one. Oh, man.
I got to be honest, harsh grader.
Tough crowd tonight. My gosh.
You got to finish strong, though. That's all that matters, right? It's how you start, it's how you finish.
I did it. I did finish strong last week.
That's right.
Because I got in, you guys got me. I got so pumped up by the end of the show. I had to go and I had to walk around the house to let out some of the energy that I got built up from the show, which is good. But all right, guys. So make sure you're popping your questions into the comments box. We'll take a few of them right now. We'll start off with Chris D, who wants to know, when is Ben Bredesen coming back? Is there any chance Gates gets plugged in at center this season? All right, couple questions there. Bredesen, I don't know where he's at. I know he's eligible. Wait a minute a second. When did he go on IR? I shouldn't say he's eligible. Has it been 3 weeks?
I think
Let me look it up.
I think he's eligible either for the Cowboys game or the game after that.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to look
I
it
want
up
to say
for
the game
sure.
after that.
Let me look it up on Pro Football Reference. I think he's got another week, but let me double check here. Okay, let's see. Where are we here? All right, so he went on IR after the Jacksonville game. So he missed Seattle. He missed I think he's got another week to go. So still to come, and we'll see. We'll see if he comes back. Now, as far as Gates and center, it's interesting. I thought there was a possibility that Gates might move to center this week because Feliciano's been banged up all season long. Yeah. And, Feliciano, he's a tough dude. So I wondered if maybe at some point we might see Gates in there at center. But now I'm thinking, Feliciano's just going to try and gut it out. Gates is the backup center if he needs to go in there, if God forbid Feliciano can't play. But I think they really like Gates as that jumbo tight end for now. Mm-hmm. We were talking about it offline, I think, and maybe at the start of the show we talked about it a little bit. But there was the report that that Azudu is not going to start on Sunday. That it's going to be Shane Lemieux will probably get the start. Shane Lemieux will be activated off IR on Saturday, and he'll step in at left guard, which was the role he was supposed to have to start the season anyway. So that was a bit of a surprise because you figure Gates has been playing a little bit longer than Lemieux. You figure he's a little further along in his ramp up, and but no, I guess they like Gates as that jumbo tight end because he has that movability, flexibility, and whatnot. And hey, listen, I trust Bobby Johnson so far when it comes to that offensive line. I think he's done a pretty good job getting those guys ready.
Yeah, I think Gates is really versatile, and I think that's why they can move him around. I mean, he was a really good guard. I thought he was fantastic at center when they moved him and he was out of position. He just you gotta love Gates is just a dude that just wants to hit somebody. He just does.
Yes, he does.
He's looking for somebody to just pancake.
And you see it after the play too.
You do.
Gets a little extra
you
shove
talk
in
about
there.
A full energy guy that just in Gates. Somebody hits Daniel Jones late. He's the first one that's going to get in a scrum. You love those guys on your team. Those are the guys you want.
Somebody gets in my face. He's quick to jump up. If he's in the vicinity, it's so funny.
Yeah, you love that.
You're like the quarterback of the media.
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't go that far.
He's got to protect you. He's got to protect
right.
you. Nah, it's all good. He's like, if anybody, he always tells me, if anybody gives you any problems, you come tell me. I'm like, I'm fine. I can handle myself.
He's the enforcer.
He's an enforcer.
Let's give him that nickname. Let's call him the enforcer. Why not?
I like it. I like it.
Good.
I think he would accept it.
Gates.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Jimmy D wants to know, do you think Robinson is going to be a good wide receiver? You know what? I got to be honest with you. I like the talent, but I'm a little concerned with him being on and off the injury list so far. He's questionable, I believe, he's questionable for Sunday. I think he's going to be okay to play, but right now we're getting into the colder weather when hamstrings can linger. So I just wonder if Robinson has ever had a chance this season to really open it up between the knee issue that he had earlier in the year and now with the hamstring. I do think if he can, get all that under control, he can have carve out a nice little niche for himself in this offense. We've seen hints of it, but a lot of people say, well, why haven't they gotten him more involved? And I just wonder if maybe this is some of the reason why.
I see him being, if he could ever stay healthy, which we'll see. And I don't expect much this year. He's a second-round rookie. Most of the time, you're not going to get too much for second-round wide receivers in their first year. Once in a while, you will. But I didn't expect a crazy year from him to begin with this year in his rookie season. But the type of player I could see him potentially being is like a Randall Cobb. Like, that's the type of wide receiver I could see him being. If you remember Cobb when he first started, He was a guy, a little bit of a gadget guy that you could line up in the slot. You could play him a bit on the outside. You could use him a bit in the backfield. I remember the Packers used to run him a decent amount. That's the type of wide receiver I could foresee him being. I don't think he's ever going to be a number one guy, but I think he could potentially grow into a nice piece in a wide receiving core.
Does his lack of size concern you at all? Because I know he's not the biggest guy. I mean, does that contribute to some of the injuries because he's not? What is he? 5'8", like 165. Like he's not a big.
I'm 5'8", guys, and I've stood next to him, and I feel like I have to look. I know this could sound terrible, but I feel like I got to look down on him because I feel like he's a little shorter than I am.
5'7".
So
and again, I don't know how he's built. Like we had, like Dave Meggett,
solid. He's solid, but you know,
like Joe Morris was like 5'6", but he was
but Joe Morris was stocky. He was stocky.
He was.
I think like all rookies, Wan'Dale Robinson's got to get in the weight room. Got to benefit from an NFL level strength and conditioning program, and I think you're going to see a much different player come next year. So. Right now, I'm not overly worried about him. I just hope that, he learns, and he will. Remember, Sterling Shepard's, he's around, but he's kind of not around. Who's there to really teach these guys, these young guys, how to take care of their bodies? Golladay is there, but, he's got his own issues. Darius Slayton's still kind of a young veteran. They don't really have an older guy, if you will, like a Sterling Shepard who's been in the league and who can say, okay, you know what? Stay away from the fast food stuff. Do this. Make sure you're getting your rest. They don't really have that, I don't think, because like I said, Golladay, you would think he would be the guy, but he's got his own issues he's dealing with. And Shepard with the injuries, so that factors into it too. But to the question, I'm confident that Wan'Dale's going to turn out to be a good player. He's got the right mindset. He's not lazy. He comes in, he spends extra time in the morning. One of the last guys to leave at night, just needs to stay on the field. And sometimes, remember, and I think, I can't remember if it was you, Chris, or you, Dog. One of you said, and this is a good point, at this time of the year, college season, I think, is over, isn't it? I mean, it's over.
Close. Yeah.
Or close to being over.
I think at the beginning of December is their last game until the bowl games.
Right. So, I mean, these guys, they've got to go a little bit longer now that they're in the NFL, and the practices are longer. The days are longer. They're not spending, just like a couple of hours on the field and then the rest of the day in the classroom, for their studies. They are longer, more mentally draining and stuff like that. And there's a lot more to learn. I mean, even, it's interesting, even with something as simple as special teams. And I know this because I had a conversation with Darnay Holmes about this. I also spoke to Dory Jackson about it, about special teams. And I was like amazed. They said, what do they teach when it comes to punt returns and special teams? They said, they just tell us to catch the ball and run. There's no really rhyme or reason in college on special teams. And he said, here in the NFL, everything is more orchestrated and scripted as to what the coaches want. So that should tell you the level of detail we're talking about at the NFL level versus the college level.
It's a gigantic jump. I mean, there's always a joke about, this team could beat an NFL team, but I don't think any college team could beat an NFL team. Although I do think Georgia would have gave the Giants a run for their money last year. I really do. Georgia's defense against what we put out there on offense at the end of the year with former Georgia quarterback Nick Trump, that might have been interesting.
Hey, you know what? I wonder if the three of us and maybe some of our friends might have been competitive.
It would have been a good battle. Well, I would have pulled the hamstring immediately. I can't run anymore.
My knees are shot. I probably would have been inactive.
I have things on Instagram like, oh my God, BadDog, you're built like that. You got to play for the Giants. I'm like, listen, I can't. There's nothing that works underneath anymore. It's like a classic car where the engine don't run. It's just, it is what it is. But yeah, the everything's much more grueling in the NFL. The speed, the strength, the size, the skill level, because this is the best of the best. You may have 6 NFL players on the best college teams like Alabama and Georgia. And the NFL, they're all NFL players. So you have the best of the best. You have the best competition, the strongest, the quickest, the most athletically gifted. And it is, like you said, Pat, it's a much longer NFL season. It's much more grueling. It's much more physical, and it will take a toll on these guys' body. It happens in the NBA too. You know, college basketball's over in March. They talk about hitting the rookie wall. Baseball, same thing. The schedules are much longer in the professionals. So the guys, as good a shape they may be in, the endurance factor may not be there for a full season. So I think Wan'Dale will be okay. I want to see more of him. I want him to get in a groove. It's hard to get something going if you're in out all the time.
I think another thing that fans need to take into account when analyzing these rookies, whether it be Wan'Dale Robinson, whether it be Kayvon Thibodeaux, whether it be Evan Neal, whoever it is, Cordell Flott, hopefully whenever he gets back out on the football field, when they analyze rookies specifically for this New York Giants team, you also have to factor in that you have a brand new offensive and defensive scheme on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. So it may not necessarily affect the rookies, but it affects the other players on the team. So it makes it a lot easier, you know what I'm saying? Because they're picking up a new scheme. They're learning on the fly. They're not used to this scheme. So a lot of times a rookie will go into a much better situation with a more established football team, and they may benefit because of it in their rookie year. They may flash a lot more. These guys are on Kayvon Thibodeaux's playing in a defense. None of these guys have ever played in before. Wan'Dale Robinson's playing in an offense. None of these guys have ever played in before. Daniel Jones is still learning the scheme as he goes. So I think that has something to do with some of the rookies' performances as well. For people that are saying, why isn't Wan'Dale Robinson catching touchdowns? Why isn't Kayvon Thibodeaux getting 8-9 sacks? So you got to also factor that in, that all the players on this team are learning brand new schemes on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. I mean, they're a little further along now, but they're still learning to be done. And, you know, I just think back to when the Giants moved off of Kevin Gilbride years ago, and how Eli even, you know, despite the fact at that point Eli had been in the league for over a decade, he was playing slowly, you know, and then the following year, he went year 2 of McAdoo's offense, he picked it up and they were able to play faster. So it does definitely take some time. So that's a good point. All right. Side guy Bry asked about, it's actually Roy Mbadaka, and I learned how to say that, by the way. Yay me. Roy Mbadaka will be ready to play in a game. Okay. Right now, Roy Mbadaka isn't even on the practice squad. I do think they will bring him back at some point. Probably looking at least another year, if not 2.
I was going to say they cut him, right?
Yeah, he's one of those guys they move on and off the practice squad, but because the injuries, they haven't brought him back. But nobody's picked him up as far as I know. But look, I suspect he will be one of the guys that they sign to a reserves future contract once the season's over. You know, usually the day the season ends, the next day they go out and they sign all the practice squad guys and guys to, you know, reserve futures contracts that don't count against the cap. So yeah, and Mbadaka's he's got at least another year to go before he's even ready, I think. So, you know, it'll come. I think if he keeps working at it, and he's got, from what I remember the coaches saying about him, they like his skill set, they like his intangibles. He's just got to get the experience, really. Yeah. So, all right, let's see. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets says, why not just say the full BadDog? Dog, do you mind that I call you dog?
Not at all.
Come on. All right. All right. Does that answer your question? I mean, come on, guys. All. I mean,
I'm gonna try your intro at the end of the show, and I'm gonna have you judge me on it.
What are you gonna try?
I'm gonna do your intro at the end of the show, and I'm gonna have you give me a number grade on it.
Oh gosh, I'm tough with grading. Just a warning.
I know. I know you are.
Okay. All right. Kalen Chabal. When is Ojulari coming back? He's got to sit out this week, obviously. I think this is week number 3, if I'm not mistaken. So he would be eligible for Dallas. I don't know if he will be ready to go by Dallas, only because the schedule, as I understand it, after this week, Monday is going to be, I think, a day off for the players. Tuesday, they're practicing. I'm not sure if it's going to, it probably won't be a full pads practice. I would imagine it's not. Wednesday's a travel day, Thursday's the game. I think Ojulari, we will probably see him the following week, give him a little extra time. So yeah, that's what I think. And I see Amazing Guy asked the same question. So that's the time frame that I think is going to take place. I mean, they're not going to put, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, for them to activate Ojulari. You know, I guess they could start the window if they haven't. I don't think they've started the window, but they can open the window once he finishes the 3-week period, or the 4-week period. So they got time on him. So that's where they are with Ojulari. And I did speak to Ojulari, by the way, this week. He is itching to come back. He says he feels good. He feels healthy. He feels that, he says he's been able to run. He's been able to push off his calf. And,
that could be a huge addition.
That would be.
I'm itching to get him back.
And he's going to have fresh legs when he comes back, which he.
Because I'll tell you what, in the limited time we saw him this year, he looked really good. Ojulari, he had that one game where he was really good.
We're gonna need him for them divisional games. So
Right.
Get healthy. I'm glad he's itching to get back. Fresh legs against Washington and Philadelphia. We're gonna need it.
Yeah.
We're gonna need it.
Yeah. All right. KN wants to know, why haven't we brought in Will Fuller for a workout? If we don't get Odell, then shown throwing the season. Okay, KN, again, how are you going to pay him? How are you going to pay him? Seriously, you think Will Fuller is going to accept the veteran minimum? Probably not. And there's a reason why, I don't think Will Fuller's with any team. So ask yourself why he's not with any team.
Let's be honest with ourselves too. Like, do you think Will Fuller is going to step in to this offense and learn it on the fly? There's a complex offense, and just be able to come in and make an immediate impact for this football team?
No.
A guy that has not played football all year.
Same thing with Odell Beckham.
I agree. I know fans love Odell Beckham and they think it'd be a great story. And I will say, Odell proved last year he was able to do it with the Rams, with McVay, especially once they got into the playoffs. But it's asking a lot to ask a wide receiver who's not played football all year, with 7 games to go in the season, to just come in and have a huge impact for.
And how are you going to pay him?
Yeah.
I keep saying, do you want to redo Kenny Galladay's contract and make it even worse for next year? I don't think Shane wants to do that.
No, if Shane wanted to mortgage a few, or use some of the future, he would have traded for a wide receiver. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to get Jerry Jeudy. He didn't want to get Chase Claypool. He wasn't giving up a second round pick for those guys. And this is the other thing I'll say. Why is he I don't understand. He's throwing the season. We are 7-2 without Will Fuller, without Odell Beckham. How the hell are we throwing a season because he doesn't bring in a veteran wide receiver that hasn't played all year? I don't get how he's throwing this season.
I don't get it
with what we've had all year. So, like Chris said, Will Fuller ain't going to come in here and make us a Super Bowl contender.
No. Right.
Maybe we're a Super Bowl contender now, but regardless, I don't think that is the move that puts us over the top. How about
and the Giants? They're not one player away. We keep saying that. Now, could they use some talent or an influx of talent on the receiver court? Sure, but you know what? Darius Slayton, maybe I talked to him this week. Kid's getting his confidence back.
Oh yeah,
he's and I told him, and I don't want to say man enough because obviously I'm not a man, but I'm big enough to go up to somebody, a player, that and everybody who follows me, reads me, that I kept saying, well, they'll probably cut Slayton. They'll probably trade him. There's just no way they're going to carry that salary cap number. Well, I was partially right. They didn't carry that salary cap number that he had. And I told him, I said, Darius, I owe you an apology and kudos, because I was one of the people who didn't think you were going to be on this roster. And he was very gracious about it, and we had a great conversation. Hopefully I'll get that written up and on the site by tomorrow, because we had a real good conversation about his resolve and whatnot. But, Slayton, no, he's not, nobody's going to mistake him for the top shelf receivers in the league. But again, at the end of the day, what is a receiver asked to do? And this is another, I'm going to refer back to, again, my interview with Mike Pritchard about what's the difference? What makes for an elite receiver? I asked him that question. Great answer. So check that show out on that I did on Wednesday. And it comes down to it comes down to effort. It comes down to catching the ball and blocking. He says the true elite receivers maybe have better measurables. They maybe have better athleticism. But he says, you know what? Sometimes you can make up for what the good Lord didn't give you with effort and determination. And, that's at the end of the day, that's what a quarterback and that's what an offense needs a receiver to do. Catch the ball, block, not make mistakes. That it's great if he can get open, if he can twist his body and make acrobatic catches. But, at the end of the day, what do you really need the guy to do?
I was just curious because we're talking about this wide receiver thing because a lot of Giants fans wanted to trade for Jerry Jeudy at the trade deadline or whatever. I looked up Chase Claypool's stats since he joined the Chicago Bears because, of course, the Chicago Bears gave up a early second, what will probably be very early second-round pick to get him. Chase Claypool, his first game had 2 catches, 13 yards. His second game, he had 1 catch for 8 yards. So they gave up an early second-round pick to bring him in there, and a guy that's going to be off his rookie deal after next year. And so far, he's produced 3 catches in 2 games for 21 yards. And that just goes to show you that an in-season move like that, and Claypool's been playing all year. Claypool's in football shape. Claypool's been playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It takes time to get on the same page with your quarterback. It takes time to learn the offensive scheme. It's a brand new offense for Chase Claypool. So if you want to bring in a guy off the streets like Will Fuller or Odell Beckham, they're not going to come in here and just light the league on fire. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, I think that had something to do with it. Why Joe Shane said, I'm not willing to sell the farm to, give him a second and a third or fourth round pick to get a wide receiver this year when I go out there and do it in the offseason.
Right. Or they could draft one. The other thing with Darius Slayton, he was making over $2 million. And I thought the same thing. I didn't think he'd be here just because the Giants are so, cap stricken. And you looked at it, they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson. They had Kenny Golladay. They had Kadarius Toney. They had Sterling Shepard. So you're looking at the depth chart and you're figuring he's a wide receiver 5 going into the year. And it's like, do you really want to pay $2.5 million for a wide receiver 5? But Darius Slayton is kind of a microcosm of this team. He took less to stay here. He thought about the team first and not himself. And to me, that's going to win you over with your teammates. That's going to win you over with the fans. That's going to win you over with the coach, except saying, listen, this guy's sacrificing for the betterment of the team. And again, I'm extremely happy that he's succeeding because he deserves it. He's not a selfish guy, and it may pay off. It definitely could pay off. Maybe some team does offer him 2 years, $14 million or something next year. And maybe he does go somewhere else and get a bigger payday, but it's because of his selflessness that allowed that to happen. So I'm very happy that he's succeeding. And again, he's really our only true burner. I mean, he ran a sub 4.4 in the 40. So he's really the only really explosive guy we have on the outside. And it's good to see him getting his confidence back because he and Daniel Jones had a really good rapport. They're both at their rookie seasons, and then it kind of fell apart, but everything fell apart the last 2 years. So I'm just glad to see that that's back. And now I feel like we do have a pretty deep threat, a guy that can take it to the house like he did against the Texans.
Slayton had some injury issues the last couple of years.
Right.
I had to kind of drag that out of him. He wouldn't tell me what, but but then he was quick to say, well, look, I was out there. I'm not using this as an excuse. I'm like, I know you're not using an excuse, but I said, you just don't go from up here to down here over the course of 1 year without there's something being physically responsible for it.
Yep.
So
he had some drops too. Again, I think some of it was mental.
But you know what? His confidence took a beating.
Right.
He just in talking with him, I don't want to say he's like ultra sensitive, but you can tell he's very deep. He's a deep thinker, really nice young man. And just, I could just tell that he was very hard on himself. He was beating himself up. And when you are fighting that battle against yourself and you're not forgiving yourself and saying, I had a bad day at the office, but I'm going to come back. I'm going to kick butt next. That didn't happen with him. And I think whoever had the conversation with him to say, look, you can set this league on fire if you apply yourself and stop beating yourself up. There's a degree of psychology involved here. That's why they have Dr. Laney Lawrence on the staff, amongst other reasons, to get with these guys when they have a bad day or a bad season and keep them from beating themselves up or just saying, or sabotaging themselves for the future. So sports psychology is huge. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that. We talked about Kenny Golladay earlier in the show. He's
going through it right now. He's going through it.
Yeah.
His confidence is shaken. I mean, when he has an opportunity, he's driving a pass.
Won't admit it, but
field, and he's probably sitting there thinking, here we go again. Like I
Yeah.
can't get, that's what I'm saying. It'd be
And-
nice just to get him a couple of easy ones, just to kind of get his confidence back and allow him to be the guy he was. I said it last week, and I'm going to continue to harp on it until he does it. Kenny, you're going to do it, right? This is our trade. He is our trade. That's the wide receiver that we need to produce. He's there. He just has
or
to.
Wandell. One of them. I'm muted.
No, you're good.
Or Wandell. One of them has to step up. One of these guys has to step up.
Yes.
But the thing is, Kenny Golladay has a track record of.
Yeah.
We don't know what Wandale is, but Kenny Golladay definitely can be that guy. I mean, he led the league in touchdown receptions a couple of years ago. So just one touchdown for that guy is going to make a world of difference. I would love him to get the first touchdown this week against Detroit. I
would love it too.
I just think it would do such wonders for him
to
feel like, hey, this team's 7-2 and I contributed.
Right.
I did something good. It would help him immensely.
Yeah.
Because right now I feel like you said, he's going through it. Like he's like, I dropped the pass.
And he's not admitting it. He's trying to put on the brave face, but you could tell by the body language, by how he's talking. If you look at him closely, you could see that he's almost defeated mentally, and that's what they've got to, straighten out. Now part of it is his own doing, because he's letting it affect what he's doing, on the practice field and on the regular field, and they, have they given up on him? I don't know, but they've got to see if they can bring out the best in him at some point. Now it might be too late. I don't know, but I'll be curious to see what they do if he even plays on Sunday, because, he might not play. Maybe the hamstring will tighten up again. Who knows? I mean, hamstrings are tricky. All right. Amazing Guy wants to know, when will McKinney and Bellinger return? McKinney just went on an FI last week, so he's got to miss 4 games. Bellinger, I caught up with him. He was telling me that the eye is coming along. There's still some double vision though. So I think until the double vision goes away, and he says it's just a little bit, it's not as bad as it was at first. But I'm thinking, if I had to take a guess, I would say maybe beginning of December, which is not that far off. I think that's when then we'll probably see Bellinger come back.
Probably see him with a visor too, I would imagine.
Oh, no question about it. He's going to have to wear a visor.
Said that.
And somebody also asked me in the mailbag. I think it was in the mailbag. They said, "Oh, why doesn't he just get a visor? That'll solve the problem." Well, no, that'll solve the problem with people accidentally poking him in the eye. That's not going to fix his double vision.
Right.
Yeah. Of course.
So you got to let that clear up. And if he needs contacts, then they have to get contacts with the prism in it and all that stuff. And there's things that would have to be done, but they want the double vision to clear up. But you look at him up close, you can't tell that he had eye surgery. He looks, perfectly normal, but he was telling me, that there's still some healing that has to be done, but he's made amazing progress. And I think he's going to be fine. I really do.
I really like him. He was having a great year. And those are the type of picks that
those win
in the future win you Super Bowls. Yeah. When you get productive guys in the 4th and 5th round, when you find those guys, and again, he's not going to be Travis Kelce, but if he can block and he can catch the ball on 3rd and 7 for 11 yards and run over a couple guys, and that's what
you never know. George Kittle was like a 6th round pick, or
right? You don't.
Yep.
You never know.
But that's where your money's made in the draft. At those middle of the round, late round picks, you find those guys. Darius Slayton was a 5th round pick, so you find those guys there, and that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
I hope he gets back soon. I love Bellinger, man. He's
definitely. All right. I'm seeing a lot of questions like this about signing guys to backloaded deals. Guys, that's how they got into the salary cap problem to begin with. I don't think Shane's, first off, I don't see Odell taking a 2-year backloaded deal. I think he said something about he wants a multi-year deal, like 3-4 years. Hate Sam is saying, "Oh, you extend Leo. That's how you find money." They just restructured Leo this year, so they can't touch that contract again until a year has gone past. I'm pretty sure there's a rule in the CBA that says you can't touch a contract twice if you've restructured it. So trust me when I say the only other place that I think they can get money is from Kenny Golladay, and I don't think they want to do that. I know Shane probably will have to at some point, but he's going to wait as long as possible, because if he does it now, then he's going to put more money, dead money, into future caps, and I don't think he wants to have a huge amount dumped into future cap years. So
Yeah, if they're
I
gonna
really got to put this. I really got to do a show on salary cap stuff. I should do a live show one week where you just throw questions at me and I just try and answer them as best as possible.
if they're gonna extend Leonard Williams, it's not gonna happen in
It's not going to
season.
be this year.
It's gonna happen
Next year, maybe,
Yeah, in the
maybe,
offseason,
because
or
he's
next
got a
year.
big amount. I think it's over 30 million.
$32 million against
Yeah.
the cap. So
Yeah.
As much as I love Odell Beckham and would love him to be a Giant, I'd much rather just take my chances on a guy like Jalen Hyatt, Mario Williams, somebody in the draft, a young wide receiver, 21, 22 years old, and a rookie contract, outside of a guy that's going to want 10 to 12 million a year coming off of 2 ACL surgeries. That's the plus side of 30. That's just me. If you're building for the future, we're not the Rams. If we were in the situation the Rams were last year, and it's like, that's our last piece to the puzzle, then you're good to go, right?
Right.
We're not that team.
Right.
We have other needs, and you cannot, again, like you said, Pat, this is how we got in this bad cap situation. And Reese did it a lot too. Did the consistent backloading of the contracts. You do not want to do that, especially for a guy that, like I said, is the plus side of 30, because then you can't get out of the deal.
ACLs.
Right. No, I love Odell. I still think he's going to be a Giant before he retires. It's just not going to be this year.
And it's not going to be a long-term deal. I don't see that.
No.
You're better off getting a receiver on your rookie deal. Especially you got to re-sign Saquon, and that contract's going to be complex. You're potentially looking at having to re-sign Daniel. You're going to have to redo Dexter at some point. You're probably going to have to redo Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney. You know, you can't just throw money around like this on a guy who's, you know, and again, I love Odell. I would love to see him back, but I'd be surprised if it happens.
It's just not a fit. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit right now. If the cap situation was different, yeah,
maybe. Yes.
Right, but it's not. We are.
They got to get through the rest. They have to get through the rest of the year with what they've got, and I think they're under 2 point. I think it's like 2.8 or less at this point.
It's not a lot.
Don't have a lot, and you know, otherwise you can't bring up practice squad elevations. You can't make roster moves. You know, I saw somebody ask about Alex Bachman. If you notice, what this team has mainly done is they've been bringing guys up off the practice squad as opposed to bringing in guys from the outside to fill in when there's been injuries.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's happening. I mean,
I don't either.
Look around the league right now. I pulled up the wide receivers. How many of the top wide receivers? How many are 30 in the league right now? The best 30-year-old wide receiver in the league right now is Devontae Adams is 30. You have Tyler Lockett's 30, and then after that, the next best wide receiver that's over the age of 30 is Adam Thielen, who's not even near the wide receiver he was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it doesn't add up. The guy's coming with 2 ACL tears. He's 30 years old. You want to get younger. You don't want to start backloading salaries on this roster to hurt the future of this team. And I've always been for the Odell under the right circumstance, which for me is like a 1-year prove-it contract.
Right.
I don't want to give this guy what he feels like he's worth. And if he's worth it and somebody gives it to him, great. I don't think the Giants are in a place to do that.
If Dallas wants to offer the guy 4 years, as much as I hate to see him wearing that uniform, but if they want to give him 4 years, $45 million, how about it?
How about it? Exactly.
It's just the way I look at it. If Odell Beckham said, listen, I want to be a Giant this year. I want to help you win a Super Bowl. I'll take the league minimum this year.
Which would work, by the way.
And then I'm a free agent next year, and then people can bid for my services, which, you know, if he came out and he produced, he might get more money. But at the same time, he might also say, listen, I've had 2 ACL tears. I want guaranteed money. I don't want to take a chance of playing 5 games and I tear it again, and then my NFL career is over. So it makes sense from a business standpoint for him. Sure. But it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint for us.
Agree. All right. Pete Carlson says, do you get the impression that Shane Dable got caught by surprise in terms of the Giants' record at this point in the season? You know, I think if you had asked them, could this team be a playoff team? They might have hedged. Well, they I don't think they would have gone on record and said it, but I think they would have spun it a little bit towards no, not really. But this is gravy. They're playing with house money right now. And, Shane said when he was hired, if you remember, he said, we're going to rebuild and compete, which Gettleman had said, but Gettleman never figured out how to do it. Shane has apparently figured out how to do it with Dable's help.
Well, yeah.
And
if
coaching
had
is the,
Dable, maybe he would have
difference.
been able to do it.
Right. Coaching's been the difference. So, is there a surprise? They'll say no, because they'll say, look, we had confidence in our guys. We always figured we could be this good, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I mean, I think, am I surprised they're in this position? Yes. I did not predict 7-2. I said, I figured they would go 8-9.
I figured they go 7-10.
We both had 7-10. Yeah.
But I do know Shane's opening presser. He said, we're going to try to win, but make no mistake about it. This is a rebuild.
Yes.
So he didn't say,
so he
didn't come out and go, we're trying to win and rebuild at the same time. He said, we're trying to win, but make no mistake, this is a rebuild. So where Dave Gettleman was like, we're rebuilding and trying to win, it's like Shane was like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to throw games all year long. We're going to try to win. But if we don't, don't expect a ton. From what I got from, we win, awesome, but don't expect us to go 13-4.
Yeah.
Because we are rebuilding. We're in the process of a rebuild. So this, like you said, this is gravy. And
here's what
I like gravy. So good.
Yes, I saw your tweet. I saw your tweet, dog.
Yes, candied yams. That's
that part I didn't like.
No, I love.
I don't like yams.
Oh, they're good.
Sorry.
Candied yams.
Give me nice creamy mashed potatoes with chives and a little bit of butter, and I'm
stuff too.
I'm
it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, but except if you're Ryan Dunleavy. Ryan Dunleavy doesn't like Thanksgiving dinners. I don't know if you've heard that. He's Ryan Dunleavy of the Post. Great guy, but he has some very unusual food tastes.
I thought I was insane.
No,
somebody that doesn't like Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah, he's more insane than me.
You'd be amazed at some of the stuff he doesn't like.
I put mayonnaise in his coffee like Will Levis.
What humans? There has to be something. I can understand somebody doesn't love a specific thing about a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, but there's got to be something you could find that you love about a Thanksgiving dinner.
There's like 40 dishes.
Whether it be the stuffing, the pumpkin pie, the turkey, the gravy,
apple pie, candied yams, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, stuffing.
I am pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he is not a fan of the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. I don't remember if there was something.
I'm picturing Ryan Dunleavy getting Chinese food on Thanksgiving.
I don't know if does he like Chinese food? I know he likes Italian.
Maybe he's just like pizza.
He's a guy who's never eaten lettuce. Believe it or not,
no,
he has never eaten lettuce.
I can see that. I mean, Michael K don't like ketchup, so I mean, it's
Well, I mean, it's ketchup, but lettuce. How do you can't even taste lettuce? I mean, come on.
But to go back to Pete's point though about I think it was about he basically the one thing I took out of the comment, I didn't know if he was asking this. Are the New York Giants winning football games kind of ruining his plans? My answer to that, if that's what you were implying, is no. I don't think that Shane went into this year hoping the team would lose so he'd get a high draft pick. No, I think he's trying to build a winning culture, and I think this just means that they're ahead of schedule.
Right.
And if you're a good GM, you don't need to be picking top 5.
Right.
Listen, the Bills always found talent late in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that in my one thing that I think goes overlooked by a lot of people when it comes to the draft. Of course, it's an advantage to be picking in the top 5 in terms of being able to find high-end talent. But there's actually a disadvantage to be picking top 5 in the draft every year, because you pay these guys a ton of money right away. You look at like Kayvon Thibodeaux, he's probably making $6-7 million year 1. By year 4 of that rookie contract, he's going to be making double digits. Same thing with Daniel Jones. Same thing with Slayton.
And if you want, and if you pick up his option, that's going to be even worse for your cap.
Yeah,
so you're absolutely right.
That's a disadvantage that goes overlooked by a lot of people when you consistently pick top 4,
and,
top 5,
and
top
when
6,
you're consistently picking in the top 5, it's because you're consistently bad.
Yes.
So listen,
and it doesn't work. And there's no guarantee it's going to work. I mean,
Right.
this team is picked in the top 10 how many years in a
That's
row?
what I was just going to say. Since 2018, I think we've had 5 top 10. We picked 2nd, 4th, 6th, 5th, and 7th, right? We've
Right.
picked everything but first, pretty much. And where have we been? So that's what I
Exactly.
feel like. We got a tank for a good draft pick. I'm like, why? We're winning. The whole point of getting a good draft pick is so that you start winning games. We're winning. And so good. Pick 25th. Get Mario Williams, get Jalen Hyatt, get one of those wide receivers. That kid from Ohio State's not going to be there. But the wide receiver class is deep. Get a lineman, get a center, get something in the 20s. You don't need to get like the best quarterback out there. You don't need to get if you're picking 4th, what are you going to do? You're going to take a wide receiver 4th? Probably not. You don't need a tackle. You're not going to take a center 4th. So I maybe a corner, but to me, winning football games is way more important than draft position because, again, I said at the beginning of the year, winning builds culture. You talk about all the culture you want when you win, and these guys are confident and they buy in and they want to go to work every day.
You get
knowing they have a chance
free
to win.
agents that want to come here.
Correct, especially with them changing the turf. I think that's a
that's huge
addition to getting some free agents that want to come and play at MetLife Stadium is the fact that they're getting rid of this terrible turf next year.
And for those of you who didn't see it, I put an article on Giants Country with a link to another article that actually shows, and I didn't realize this with the difference in the turf. That thing's like almost like a net. Those blades are almost like nets. So I could see where, you can make the argument that a cleat can get caught in those nets. Whereas, it's not true artificial grass where you have single blades, monofilament, I guess it's called. And I was amazed at the difference. I was like, whoa, how is that safe?
Pat, why don't they go to natural grass?
Because that you got 2 football teams, and plus that stadium's a multi-purpose stadium. So you've got road shows, concerts, all kinds of stuff. And grass would be too expensive. And here's the other thing.
Is that what they can't just like lay sod down and
no, well, okay. and here's the other thing, when it gets cold out, grass can get really,
yes, I do know.
Get really hard. So, the feeling is you put the padding down and maybe that softens the blow a little bit. But the big thing is cost, I think, and also the fact that that stadium is used for 2 football teams. I think college football at times is play there. You have concerts, you got events there. They have the motocross event there. I think the only time that they put down grass, I want to say, is when they play soccer there. Could be wrong. I think that's the only time. But the old Giants Stadium, I don't know if you remember, they used to have grass trays, and they found that it just wasn't cost effective because they had to keep replacing these trays, and it got to be too expensive. And that's the other thing, sometimes you can have grass on the field, and if that grass isn't maintained and you have spots that are worn, that's just as bad. So, I see where they're getting at, and I can see where they prefer the turf, but the type of turf that they have, that's a danger. To me, it looks like it's dangerous. Having read and found that article, and again, it's on Giants Country. There's a link in that article where you can actually see a close-up picture. It looks almost like, the plastic things that on a 6-pack of, soda or beer.
Right.
That's what it kind of looks like. And then you kind of twist it, and you can see where cleats can get stuck in that very easily. It's like if you're walking on carpet and with cleats and you have loop carpet, you can kind of, get stuck in there. So you got to be careful with that. I can definitely see that as being, as a safety concern, having done that research. So just get the monofilament grass and maybe that'll do the trick. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a turf expert, but you're right. They are gonna replace that turf. And Shane and Dable talked about that earlier in the year. They said that they were going to have discussions about that. So that was on the agenda long before, this report came out. But all right, Hate Sam wants to know, can't we extend guys that will be here in the future like Leo? Hey, Sam, they already touched Leo's contract. They already restructured it. You can only touch a contract once per league year, from what I understand, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, such as if the guy lands on NFI and you want to dock him or something like that. But you can't play around with the money once you've restructured him. So they've got to wait till next year in order to do anything with Leo. it's not going to happen this
Which
year.
I think
So
they're going to, by the way. I think they are going to.
I think they would too, and we'll see. We'll see if Leo agrees to it. I think Leo likes being here. He and Dexter, they make a great Batman and Robin team, and you can decide who's Batman and who's Robin in that duo there. But they play off of each other.
And we start winning football. By the way, I was just curious. I looked it up. I was talking about the salaries when you pick later in the draft. Tyler Linderbaum last year was the 25th pick because I was like, that's probably around where we'll be picking next year. Hopefully we're 32.
Yeah.
4 years, $13.2 million for Tyler Linderbaum. Kayvon Thibodeaux, 4 years, $31.3 million. And Kayvon Thibodeaux year 4 is set to make $10 million. Tyler Linderbaum year 4 is set to make $4.2 million. So that adds up. If you're consistently picking 25 every year, your players year 4 in their contract are making less than half of what the guys at the top end of the draft are. So you almost lose the advantage of the rookie contract if you're consistently picking where the New York Giants have been picking.
Yep.
Because you're paying these guys what a lot of close to what some of the free agents would get paid by the time they reach year 3 or year 4 of the rookie deals because you pick them so early in the draft.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. So, you're right, Chris. It adds up, and a good GM and scouting staff, they'll find you good players that are down in the 20s and lower.
And that's why those teams pick in the 20s.
Yes.
Baltimore picks in the 20s every year, and the Patriots picked in the 20s every year, and the Steelers pick in the 20s every year. And they're picking 20th, 25th, 27th every year. And a lot of times the Patriots would trade back into the second round, not even take a first round pick. And yet they're competitive every year. So you don't need a top 10 pick every year to be a competitive football team. You just need to find guys that you can get the most out of their talent and fill the void, the needs that you have, and get those guys to perform. Listen, look at the team that we have. Who really stands out outside of Saquon Barkley on this offense? Daniel Jones having a nice year. Who really stands out? Like, that guy's an absolute superstar. Andrew Thomas, Saquon Barkley. Then you look at the defense. Who really stands? Dexter Lawrence is having that year, but who really, really stands out? We don't have. There's no Pat Mahomes on this team. There's no Tyreek Hill on this team. There's no Jamar Chase. We don't have any of those guys. But we're 7-2. That's pretty damn good with the guys that we have. So just think about Shane, Brandon Brown, Dable having, like I said, a full year of their scouts, those guys going out and scouting what they need for the New York Football Giants, knowing that they're going to have more cap flexibility next year, knowing that they have a plan in place. They know what they want to do for the future. That's what gets me excited about the Giants. We have smart personnel.
I'm just thinking about that, BadDog, as you're talking about the types of guys we have on this team. And it makes me think more and more and more that Daniel Jones is going to be here for a while, not just next year.
I think he gets I'm guessing at least a 3-year deal.
Not every quarterback is built to play in New York.
No,
not every quarterback has the personality to play in New York. He does. And that is very valuable.
And I'll tell you, Chris, and we've mentioned this before, people are like, oh, if you don't get him a wide receiver, he's not coming back here. Like, he's not going to be back here. They didn't get a wide receiver. They can't evaluate him. But to me, I think it's the opposite. I think they've looked at Daniel Jones and go, you know what? He's doing this with this. If we bring him back and don't have to worry about the quarterback spot, we can fill other positions. What can we do if we get Daniel Jones, a really good center, and a number 1 wide receiver? What can he be with better players around him? I think what he's done this year is nothing short of magnificent with Richie James, David. I mean, these are practice squad guys. These are guys, if you're not a Giants fan, if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, you don't know who the hell they are. If you're a Seahawks fan, you've never heard of Richie James or Davidson. They wouldn't be on a lot of rosters. Daniel Jones is winning football games with those guys.
I know
what he can do.
I said it on Twitter. I want everybody in the chat to answer this question truthfully. Truthfully, be honest with yourself. How many quarterbacks trade Daniel Jones for any quarterback in the league right now? Same situation. They come in with Brian Dable. They come in with this football team. How many quarterbacks in the NFL could you swap with Daniel Jones in the league right now? And we'd have 8 wins or more. We'd have a better record than we currently do.
Mahomes would be one.
Josh
Allen. Could you make a case?
Although Josh Allen has a worse record.
Could you make a case for Joe Burrow?
I don't think we would have a better record with Joe Burrow.
What about
We might have the
Brady?
same record.
What about Brady?
No, Brady get killed on this team.
Rodgers?
No.
I don't know. Rodgers
looked terrible last night.
Okay. Rodgers doesn't have anybody to throw to either.
Neither does Daniel Jones.
Right.
Yeah. Herbert?
Maybe. But they have worse records than Daniel Jones and better talent around them. They might have played a more difficult schedule, though. I mean,
What
still,
about
there's maybe 3 guys where I'd sit there and go, yeah, I could swap Daniel Jones out. We'd be just as good, if not. And Pat Mahomes is definitely the first guy. And yeah, Josh Allen 6-3, but still, you would think.
Yeah, no, Josh Allen. Yeah.
It would be only elite guys. I wouldn't be switching with Dak Prescott. I wouldn't be switching with Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts going, oh, yeah. Those guys come in here and we'd be 7-2. Absolutely not.
Maybe Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
He's mobile. But there's not many. There's not many.
Only your top tier guys. You're even above average. You're very good quarterbacks would.
Which that alone tells me why in the world would we trade when we have as many other holes on this team that we do? Why in the world would we trade up to get a quarterback?
Right. We're winning with these guys. So improve the team around them.
Yep.
And at the beginning of the year, I would have never thought I'd be saying that going on Thanksgiving. Hey, I want Daniel Jones to come back here because at the beginning of the year, I'm like, there ain't no way he's coming back here.
Yeah, I felt the same way. And he's made a believer out of me. I mean, still still time to go, but certainly on the right path for sure.
He's taken a major step forward. And like Chris has mentioned a number of times, it benefits Daniel Jones to come back in the same system with better players. He'll have a year under his belt. He's got his confidence. It's exciting to think of what this team can be. It's exciting to think about what we are right now and think of what we can be when, like I said, Brandon Brown, Joe Shane get their guys in here with more cap flexibility. You start winning football games, you're going to draw better free agents, and you're going to be something to reckon with for years. Mm-hmm. This is different than 2016 when we threw $200 million at a defense and an offense that struggled. It's way different. We mortgaged everything in 2016, and then we fell apart for 5 years. I have a video. I'm almost positive that when they hired Ben McAdoo, I said in that video, we're going to be in this mess for 5 years before we get out of it. And that was way back whenever they hired McAdoo. Was that 2016? And it's actually been 6 years. Yep. So you can't. That's why I'm glad that Shane didn't go out and trade draft picks for Jerry Jeudy. Just not a second round pick. If it was a 6th round pick, sure.
Yeah.
But not a second round pick.
No. Those picks are definitely gold. And, you know,
if they're going to pay these guys, Pat, if they're going to keep these guys, the Daniel Joneses, the Saquon Barkleys, the Julian Loves, they need those draft picks.
Exactly.
Because they're not going to be able to sign free agents. They're going to keep their in-house guys, and they're going to have to build the rest of their team through the draft.
That's why you do it.
So they can't give up those draft picks for a wide receiver that they're then going to have to pay $20 million in a year or two. They got to continue to build through the draft. If they've identified some of the core players on this team already, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for them to give up draft capital.
Amen. All right, listen, guys, I got to take one more.
Chris, when we have players and they are good, you draft the good players and you can't sign them. You compensatory picks.
Keep recycling more and more picks.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, listen, guys, I got to take my last commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We got plenty more here on LockedOn Giants Live. This episode of the LockedOn Giants podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for football betting info this season. Find all of the latest player developments and team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game, both college and NFL. And BetOnline doesn't stop there. It's your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including NHL, NBA, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head on over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the games start. Hey, Giant fans, we will be right back with more of today's LockedOn Giants Live. But first, we have this special clip for you from our friends at BetOnline.
The Lions and their 2-game win streak open as 3.5-point road dogs versus a red-hot Giants squad that are 5-1, both straight up and against the spread over their last 6 games. The spread moved to 4 on Sunday, but due to some sharps taking the Lions in the 4, the number dropped back down to 3.5, and then the current number, Giants minus a field goal. Even though 56% of the cash is on the Lions and the points, 63% of the bettors are backing the Giants.
All right, everybody, welcome back. And guys, I wanted to run that better thing because when the point spread came out this week, actually, BetOnline has one point spread. SI Sportsbook had another one. I was still kind of surprised given the narrowness of the point spread. I mean, I don't know if you guys are into betting or anything like that, but were you kind of surprised a little bit by the fact that the Giants were just barely favored?
I'm not.
No.
It's the style of play. I feel like the Giants are the type of team that shouldn't ever be favored by more than 4 or 5 points, regardless of who we're playing. And we shouldn't be an underdog by more than 6 or 7 points. Like, we're always going to be a team that is going to keep the game close, whether we win or whether we lose. I just think it's the type of team we are.
I'm surprised we're favored.
Twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row, right?
I'm surprised we're favored. Yeah, they covered last week.
Yeah.
I'm a college guy. I'm definitely I can't. I never went at the NFL. Don't know what it is. I can't. I have no luck. College, I do okay. I mean, it's not like I'm going to retire, but I'm much better at betting college football than NFL football.
Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting question. I think, since we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, if you could invite a current Giant player over for Thanksgiving, who would you all invite?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
That's a great question. Thank you. That's from Fisher Samade.
I'll start, Fisher. I'm going to go with Dexter Lawrence because I wouldn't have to worry about having to eat the leftovers.
You can't go wrong with a D lineman or an offensive lineman, I guess.
Yeah, sexy Dexy.
Yeah.
Sexy Dexy.
For me, probably, I owe it to him. So probably Daniel Jones. I think I owe Daniel Jones.
Give him thanks.
Thanksgiving dinner, and I that's the least I owe him for the amount of crap I gave him over the last few years. So it would probably be Daniel Jones. I think I owe him. I think I owe him a Thanksgiving dinner.
Jeez, who would I invite?
I know who you'd pick, Patricia.
Who would I pick?
Nick Gates.
As much as I like Nick, yes. I mean, would I have him over? I would, but no, I actually was going to say somebody else.
Oh, Brian Dable. Does that count?
Yeah, if it wasn't a player, I would have said Dable.
I would have said Dable too. Who would I invite? I guess it would depend on the mood I was in. If I wanted like really good intellectual stuff, I would probably invite Julian Love over because he plus Julian Love, like if we do post game, post dinner games and stuff, Julian Love is really, really competitive. But you know what? I think I'm going to go with Daniel Jones because for as quiet and reserved as he is, with the media, I've heard he could be a real hoop and holler.
Oh, I'm sure. It's kind of like Eli. Like there is.
Oh, Eli's fantastic.
Eli cracks me up. But yeah, Daniel Jones, he's under the radar. But Daniel Jones played the old beer pong, and there's something there. And trust me, they call me Bad Dog for a reason. If there's something there, I can bring it out to Daniel Jones.
Speaking of Eli, fingers crossed, I get him up for another interview. I'm hoping.
You're gonna have Eli on again?
I'm hoping. I asked about it because there's another marketing thing that I got a notice for, and something for Dunkin'. I think it's for Dunkin' Donuts. And I said, "Hey, is Eli going to be available to talk?" Because I have an awesome question for him related to Dunkin' Donuts that I think he would have fun with. I always come up, I don't know, something about Eli when I'm talking to him. I always come up with that creative closer question that just makes him laugh, and he just has a good time with it. But one guy I am going to be talking with as part of a marketing initiative that he's involved with, and I can't tell you what the initiative is, but I'm excited about it. I'm going to get a Dory Jackson probably in the next couple of weeks or so. So Dory's great. I've had him on the show before, and just love talking to him. So he's somebody I visit just as much as this will shock you, dog, but I visit him probably just as much as I visit with Nick Gates when I'm
Oh,
in the
really?
locker room.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, when I was watching the game Sunday, I saw Jackson back there fielding punts, and I was just like, just fair catch it.
Oh, I know.
Just catch, just don't run, just
Don't do anything stupid. Yeah.
just fair catch, just catch the ball. That worried me. I'm like, oh God, I don't like seeing that. I mean, I'm like, just catch it. Just catch the ball.
I
Don't
know.
try to do
I'm
anything
I'm
else.
scarred from that Seahorn thing. I know you can't play scared. And
Right.
and it's funny when back when Jabril Peppers was catching punts, I used to say, I don't like this. I wish they would do this. And Chris Biziano from Giant Insider used to say to me, Traina, what's wrong with you? You can't coach scared. And I'd say to him, Chris, he's going to get hurt. I could just see it now. Something's going to happen. And what happens? He goes and he breaks his back. He breaks a bone in his back. And he goes, I guess you were right. Duh, I've lived through Seahorn.
As I was going to say, the Jason Seahorn thing will always scare me.
Look, somebody's got to do it. And I don't mean it to sound like, make somebody else a sacrificial lamb. I get it. You put your best player back there, but gosh. And you can make the argument that your best players can get injured playing on offense or defense, but I don't know.
Punt returning is definitely
it's an unnecessary risk. It's an unnecessary risk.
I think it is. I think it is, but it's up to the coaches. I trust the coaches. So, all right, let's hear from Papa Guzzo. We haven't been able to get a question on from him so far. In 2 years, do you see the Giants as a Super Bowl contender? Yeah, I could see it with another couple of good draft classes and some wise free agent spending and getting certain guys back under contract, extending them, putting that core, building that core further. Absolutely, I could see it.
How about we just do it this year? How about
I'm gonna have a hot take. I'm gonna have a hot take. I think we're gonna be a Super Bowl contender next year.
I think
I
can see them making a push
because I think we're gonna be aggressive in the offseason. I think the NFC's weak, and I think we're gonna add some weapons for this offense. And the coaching staff, and I think Jones, if he's back with this offense a year or two, is going to look that much better when you get him some help. So I'm not saying we're going to win a Super Bowl, but I think we're going to be a legitimate football team. I mean, we're a legitimate football team now, but I think we're going to be an even better team next year.
I think this team is good enough to win a playoff game this year. I really do. I've said the measuring stick for me, it's not even Philadelphia. As good as Philadelphia is, I feel like we can beat Philadelphia. I feel like with Washington did them, we play that same style of football. Now, Eagles obviously understood that, and they went out and they got Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. So they beefed up the interior line with Jordan Davis being hurt. I still feel like we can beat them, but that'll be a really good measuring stick. But it's the game against Dallas. Like Dallas, I don't like the way we match up with Dallas. They're their pass rush, that offensive line, what they did the first, it will be better this game, but man, it scares me. And when they have Pollard and Zeke, both of them are different styles of running backs, but they have a good offensive line. Like they're more of a concern for me because I don't like the way we match up with them. Again, I'm not saying Philadelphia is going to be a pushover. They're very tough. That's how we're going to know what we are. If we're able to beat Dallas on Thanksgiving and we split with the Eagles, I'm going to sit here and go, there is no reason to think that we can't come out of the NFC. Because I know we lost to Seattle. I think we can beat Seattle. I think we can beat Minnesota. If we can beat Philadelphia, I'm going to say, well, I think we can beat Philadelphia. Obviously, we can beat Dallas. I'm going to say we can beat Dallas. We can definitely beat whoever comes out of the South, even if it is Tampa Bay. I think we can beat them too. So I think that we have a chance to win our first playoff game, depending on where we are.
I agree with that. I'm not willing to say.
Let's think like if we have to go to Philly, then I'm going to say that's probably going to be difficult. But if we're playing Minnesota, I don't see why we can't win that game.
Yeah,
they play like we do. They play very close. They are 7-0 in one-score games or whatever it is. So
I think we can win a playoff game this year. I don't think we're a Super Bowl contender.
No.
Now anything can happen.
But if we get in the playoffs, it's great experience for these guys.
Yeah. But I do think next year we
Treat
could
it like a dress rehearsal almost.
It depends on what we do in the offseason, but next year I could see us being like a really good football.
You
Really,
know,
good.
you talk about Daniel Jones. I know it's his 4th year in the league, but it's almost like he's starting over. It's almost like his first year.
Right.
So with what he's been able to do with the lack of talent around him as far as the receivers go, in the first year in the system, that's what gets me excited, saying, man, I know that Brandon Brown and Joe Shane are going to go out and get guys that are going to help. Because they know they know what they're doing. Like I just feel like these guys know what they're doing. They have a concise direction.
And then, I'm so pumped up about this team. Like I'm thinking about like yesterday. One thing I can't stand about fans, Patricia, is I don't know if you saw the tweet. Will, you know Will on Twitter probably, right? He's like a ultra
Will
negative.
20.
Yeah, him. Yeah.
I had to block him.
Okay, so yesterday or 2 days ago, he posted a tweet, and I think a lot of Giants fans agree with this because they don't think from the minds of a team. They don't think of the minds from a locker room. They don't think from the minds of a culture. They just think about it from dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. And he said, am I wrong for thinking next year I'd rather have Mitch Trubisky as the quarterback than Daniel Jones? And his line of reasoning was Jones is going to cost me $28 million a year, and Mitch Trubisky will cost me 10, and I could get similar production. Where, first off, you're not getting similar production. Daniel Jones already accustomed to the scheme. He's familiar with the playbook. He's going to come back stronger year 2. But they don't take into account things like the locker room culture. They don't take into account that these guys bleed for Daniel Jones. These guys believe in Daniel Jones. And if Daniel Jones leads this team to 11 wins and takes them to the playoffs, how are you going to convince this locker room that we should start over and bring in a journeyman quarterback when it
hasn't won anything, mind you?
What you do with Daniel's contract is you put incentives in there. You put all kinds of triggers. There are things that they can do. And for an example, go look at what the Bills did with Josh Allen's contract. That contract was structured so creatively. I said, my gosh, why haven't the Giants been using some of these mechanisms in their bigger contracts? I think Daniel Jones, you figure it's going to be a 2 to 3 year deal. There's going to, so if it's a 3-year deal, out after 2, but there's going to be incentives. So whatever the number is reported, it's probably going to be, if he hits all the incentives and triggers and all that good stuff. That's what I think.
We're going to be really good next
because look, this is Daniel's first year in this system, and he's handling it, like you said, without any real quality or top-notch receivers. So you want to make sure he's not going to be the one-hit wonder, because that has happened too with some guys.
You mentioned this last week, Pat, was Buffalo's really good with the cap. Joe Shane came from Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Howie Roseman's a master with the cap. Mm-hmm. Brandon Brown came from Philadelphia.
Yep.
These guys are going to know
they've got mechanisms
of the trade
and
how to get around all the stuff.
And I've been studying them.
Around with it. So yeah, you should be excited as Giants fans. You shouldn't be. I understand a lot of PTSD in the last 5 years. I get it. I was that way going into the year. I'm not going to say I had a ton of. I thought this team would be better. 7-10 is a massive improvement for what we've been the last few years. Yep. I didn't think 7-2. I didn't think Daniel Jones would be back here next year, but they've proven a lot of people wrong. And so now we have to get on board. They're a good football team. Are they great? No. Are they Kansas City? No. Are they Buffalo? No. Are they Philadelphia? No. Talent-wise? No. You look at are they Dallas? You look at paper? No. But they win. That's all that matters.
Yep.
Why can't
it's not pretty, but they're getting it done.
Winning? And Chris, to your point, I think some of these people that talk about do this, do that, they just love Madden football.
That's exactly what it is.
Football.
There's things that go into it other than just Madden. In football, there's emotions, there's leadership, there's locker room guys,
there's money,
intangibles.
You don't replace Daniel Jones. If this team wins 10 or 11 games and Daniel Jones continues to do what he's doing, and I don't want to hear it, Daniel Jones, you can make an argument as the MVP of this football team. And I know people say Saquon Barkley, and I'm the biggest Saquon Barkley fan in the world. And Saquon Barkley is the most important player, the best player, I should say, in terms of the skill position in this offense. Daniel Jones is not turning over the football is the biggest reason why we're winning football games.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
And the clutch gene all year. Another thing he didn't show that he had the first 3 years, 5 game-winning drives, playing tough games every time, showing that resolve, not scared of the situation. Situation's not too big for Daniel Jones. For years, the first 3 years here, I never
Looked like
thought
a
we could
deer in
do
the
it.
headlights.
Now, again, I don't want to compare him to Eli, but
Rio
no matter
says
how
Saquon-
no matter how bad Eli did in a game, if we were 6 points down with 2 minutes to go, I'm like, we're winning.
Yeah.
Eli's got this. Daniel Jones is starting to give me that feeling. We're down by 7 points. We're down by 4 points with a minute 50 to go and 2 timeouts. We're winning. He's going to do it. He's giving me that confidence. He has the confidence. It's the most important thing is he's like, I know I can do it. His teammates say, I know he can do it. The coach say, I know he can do it. Winning builds culture. I can't state that enough. That is such big. And Chris, to your point, if you win 11 or 12 games and you win a playoff game, and then you tell the team, bye, Daniel, what does it say to the rest of the team?
Bad message.
Right. That's stuff that doesn't happen in Madden. There's no human element in Madden. It's all AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's way different than the NFL.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And
Rio, I
think
agree
you're
with you. Saquon Barkley is equally as important as Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones is a lot more important than fans realize. And I'm the biggest Saquon Barkley fan there is. If you replace Daniel Jones with Tyrod Taylor, we have 3 wins this year. Max. And I know some fans don't want to believe that, but that's the truth. He's very valuable to this football team.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, like I said, Daniel's contract, I suspect, usually those quarterback contracts can be tricky, but I would not be stunned if they have an idea how they're going to restructure it. I think that contract's going to be a lot easier to get done as opposed to Saquon's, they're going to have to whip out every conceivable trick in the book, I think, to as far as the gymnastics are concerned. I have some thoughts on it. I keep meaning to sit down and write it, but I haven't gotten around it. I at some point I will put it together. But Saquon's contract, I think, is going to be the trickier one of the two.
I think you're going to tag him and work something out.
Well, you will tag him if they don't get a deal done, and a lot of people say, oh, you can't tag Saquon because he won't play on the tag. Well, no, duh. He's not going to play on the tag, but you can use the tag
as a tool
to keep other teams away while you work out a deal. You have until July 15th or whatever the date is to get a deal done. If you can't get a deal done by then, and Saquon, think about this for a second. Would he really sit out? If he had to play on the tag, he loses a year towards his benefits. He loses a year of accrued services. I mean, they're
going to work something out because
they're going to work. They will definitely work something. I am confident in that.
Football team. Saquon Barkley's the face of this football team. They're not going to force him to play on the tag, but Saquon's going to have to meet them in the middle.
Right. Absolutely.
They're not opening up. They're not going to give him an empty wallet, and I think Saquon realizes that.
I think he does too.
And in the end, it'll work out. Now, I'm Saquon should do what he's going to do because it's going to get him more money. Because if he just caves in and says, "Oh, I'll just play," no, he has to try to negotiate. He has to try to get as much as he possibly can. This is his one chance as a running back to get a good contract. But they're going to meet in the middle. I have full faith in that. It's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter what is it going to be.
See some creative structuring, in terms of incentives, escalators, tiered structures, tiered guarantees, all that stuff. This is all stuff that if you look at the way Eagle contracts have been structured under Roseman and how Brandon Beane has done it up in Buffalo, these are all mechanisms that I think are going to get merged into Saquon's contract when the time comes. Okay, we'll take a few more because I know, Dog, I think you have the Lakers tonight, right?
Yes, the 3-10 Lakers. It's funny. I used to stream the Lakers. Well, they played late, so it just ended up happening. But I was like, the Lakers are pretty good. It gets me away from the monotony of the terrible New York teams that I cover. And now the Giants are really good.
And now it's like, I don't want to leave.
And the Knicks are kicking ass in this West Coast trip, beating the Nuggets and the Jazz. And I'm like, man, now I stream a really bad Laker team. I guess I have to stream something that's really bad. So
I guess
they're the team.
They'll come around. The Lakers are never bad for long. They'll come around.
3-10.
True.
Not this year. I'm saying in the future.
Pretty bad. Now they play the 3-13 Pistons tonight. They better be able to win that barn burner.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more we'll take, and then we'll let y'all go. Mike Orga wants to know, how often do I see Eli around the building? I don't, actually. I see him more so like in the summertime. So I don't think Eli's in the building every single day. I think he comes in,
He was at training camp when I went.
Yeah, he's well, because you have sponsors and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's there a lot more, I think, in the summertime than he is during the regular season. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's in the building a few times, during the course of a month or whatever. I don't know what his schedule is, but he's definitely there for game day. I'm pretty sure he's there for game day because I've seen him post game a lot. So, so yeah, Eli stays in touch, and just a great guy. Hilarious. I always bust on him. I say, where was this personality when you played? He goes, I always had this personality, it was almost like, I didn't want to show it to you guys. So
he was like Jeter. He handled New York media well.
Yes, he did. He definitely did.
The Chad Powers thing cracked me up.
That was hilarious.
Yeah,
Eli.
And
if you call out and you go, hey, Chad, he actually answers to it.
Yeah. And the way he now and again those subtle shots at Tom Brady and
yeah.
Oh man, he's funny. Eli's funny.
He definitely is. All right, I'm just looking to see if we have any other questions. And I apologize if I'm skipping over any questions. Just again, I'm doing a mailbag tomorrow if you want to get those in. Let's see. All right, Papa Guzzo, I feel Daniel Jones is well respected and liked by his teammates. Absolutely. Go back to the Dallas game when they lost that game. How many guys, if you walked around the locker room, they say we needed to win this for DJ. So absolutely, and then the other thing I'm noticing when I walk around the locker room is Daniel's staying out by his locker, even after he's done talking to the media, and he has teammates gravitate towards him. So he had the other day on Wednesday, he did his presser with the media, and then Saquon came over. David Sills whose locker was next to Daniel's, got involved, and a couple of other guys got involved, and they just kind of gather around and shoot the breeze. So there's definitely a respect there. He's a captain. Don't forget, they voted him a captain. And, some of you still might not think a whole lot of Daniel Jones, but he is well respected. Mike Kafka loves him. Brian Dable loves him. You could tell. And, that was the biggest X factor coming in is how would they take to a guy that they inherited? And so far you can honestly say that that relationship, unless I'm missing something, and I don't think I am here, but you could see that relationship is really, really working out to the best. So, all right, Joshua Cohn, let me get this in because I think this was asked before. Are you out 4 weeks or 4 games? I think it's 4 weeks because it's an 18-week season, 17 games. So I think it's 4 weeks. So, pretty sure it's 4 weeks. And let's see. I mean, the only other thing we didn't touch upon, Danny Dimes's nickname, Vanilla Vic. Oh, I hit the wrong button there. Vanilla Vic, which I think Saquon gave him that name, or one of the guys.
That nickname's been around. I've heard that nickname now for people are saying.
You know what? I don't like that nick. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
You know what I've started calling him? Danny Dollars.
I know you said that. Yeah, that's
I'm telling you, when he says that contract, it's going to be my headline: Danny Dollars.
Yeah, I mean, thing. I remember people have been saying that now for like 2 years.
Yeah, I think there was vanilla. It might have happened actually during the Eagle game, even though he tripped.
I think that is when it happened
because he ran for 80 yards and he ran extremely fast, like you.
Yeah.
The only two quarterbacks faster than him were Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson.
My Chiefs fan's brother always sends me that meme, and he never lets me forget it.
The other thing
is,
like, this is your quarterback. We did score a touchdown on that drive.
Oh my gosh, my brother likes to bust my chops with that.
He was running so fast, he outran his own feet. That's what happened.
I know. It was so funny. But no, my brother being a Chiefs fan, and he likes to rag on the Giants. So he's always sending me memes, and he goes,
"He's nothing like Vic, though. It's not a good. It's not a."
I didn't. Well, I know Vic did his time and everything like that, but being a dog lover and whatnot, I've had a rescue dog. I'm going to get another dog after the season. Fingers crossed. I just can't.
Well, I mean, as a player, I'm not talking about as a person. His
As a
play
player,
style is not- it's not
I didn't care for him as a player either, to be honest with you. I'm like, he was a good athlete, but could he throw the ball really well? I'm not so sure
He had a
about
big
that.
arm, Vic. He had a big
Wasn't the
arm.
most accurate arm though.
Yeah,
Wasn't accurate. Exactly. So
But I just don't think his play style is similar to Vic. I'm trying to think of a quarterback.
I think it has to do with the running thing. That's
Yeah.
what Lightning came up with.
BadDog, who do you think is a quarterback that you think is most similar to Daniel Jones? Like
Alex
historically?
Smith. I've said that since day one. I think it's Alex Smith. Now, I think Daniel Jones is faster than Alex Smith, but
Can you
Alex
see?
Smith wasn't a sprinter, but Alex Smith could
No,
run.
Alex Smith was
Alex
a good
Smith could
runner.
get your first down. Alex Smith was accurate. Alex Smith was smart. Alex Smith didn't turn the ball over. He didn't have the greatest skill set in the world. He wasn't Pat Mahomes, but he won games. Well, you know, and much like Daniel Jones, struggled his first few years until they got the right coach.
Yeah.
To me, I've always thought Daniel Jones' ceiling was rich man's Alex Smith, and I think we're starting to see the progression towards that. That is the guy that I think he's most like, is Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger. I think he has a bigger arm than Alex Smith, though.
He might.
Okay.
Alex Smith didn't have that. He didn't have much of an arm, but I agree. Very smart quarterback. I definitely see the similarity. Same thing with Tannehill. I see that. I think he's better than Tannehill. He's going to be better than Tannehill. But I see similarities with him as well. I'm trying to think of a guy. I'll come up with one. I'm trying to think of a better guy, a guy that I really liken him towards. But yeah, both of those guys are good ones.
You see any Geno Smith in him? A little bit of Geno?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a tad?
I'm trying. I'm going to come up with a good one.
Okay. All right. Meantime, everybody's asking us for score predictions, which means we're getting to the end of the show, and then I've got to do my closure to see if I've improved from my 6. So let's do score predictions, guys. Who wants to go first?
Listen, I've done this four times, and 3 times I was 1 point off. I think I said 24-17 last week. It was 24-16. I think I said 23-20 against Baltimore. It was 24-20. It's crazy. The Seattle one, I was wrong. We're winning, Giants fans. We are winning. 27-23, G-Men.
Oh, man. You just stole my score.
Oh, sorry.
You stole my score, dog.
Sorry. Great minds think alike.
I guess.
He didn't steal mine.
All right. What do you got?
I think this game, like most Giant games, everybody's looking at Detroit. Everybody's saying Detroit puts up a lot of points. They score a lot of points. I think the Giants do what they've done all year. They bend. They don't break. They play well in the red zone defensively. We chew up the clock. We keep them off the field for the most part offensively as much as we can. And we keep this game where we want to play it. The Giants want to play in the low to mid-20s. That's where I think they play it. 24-20, Giants by 4.
Ooh, okay. All right.
So Pat and I just gave each team an extra field goal, but pretty much we're right on the money. Giants.
Yeah,
by
I
4.
think it's going to take in the 20s. I think they're going to have to push towards the late 20s.
Yeah,
the high 20s, I should say, to pull it off. But I feel pretty good about it. I mean, I know somebody asked earlier about the weather. I don't think that weather's going to affect.
just going to be cold.
It's going to be cold and maybe a little windy, but I don't think that snow is coming our way. Yeah.
No, that's in Buffalo. That's staying over there.
And remember,
Thank
the
God.
Lions, of course, are a dome team.
Right.
So,
keep the snow over there.
Buffalo.
I know. 3 to 4 feet. Have that lake.
Did you see the pictures from Buffalo?
We don't get lake effect snow up here. We get them stupid clipper things that come off the Atlantic Ocean, but we don't get the lake effect snow. So the clippers are no fun, but we don't get hit like Buffalo. We will get those storms now and again. They get 2.5 feet. It's rare. Normally our snow falls between 6 and 12 inches when we get a big one. Keep that over there, Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't get any snow until after the postseason is done.
I don't want snow.
I don't want snow either. I hate snow. I hate it. I liked it when I was a kid and it canceled school, but now you got to go out and you got to shovel it,
driving it in,
and driving it. Exactly.
It's not even that you have to drive in it; you have to drive with the other people that drive in it, and that's worse.
Exactly, it definitely is.
Oh, like we live in upstate New York. How do you not want to drive in this? Oh my God, we're gonna get 4 inches of snow. Go to the grocery store and wipe the bread off the shelf, guys. We live in upstate New York. We live here our whole lives. We're equipped to plow. We have salt and tons of plow trucks. We know it snows up here. It always cracks me up. It's like the first snowfall of the year. People don't want to act up here. Guys, it happens every year.
And it cracks me up when people clean out the grocery stores.
That's what I'm saying. They
I
wipe
mean,
the
come
bread
on.
aisle off. I'm like, well,
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
you guys can have those empty carbs. I'll stop.
Yeah,
Give me the
exactly.
chicken.
And yes, they did move the Buffalo game. I see David
Detroit.
L. asked if they moved the game. I think it's been moved to Detroit, actually. So
Yeah.
it's going to be
I
played
did
in the
not know
Dome.
that.
So
Because they're playing. I think Buffalo plays there on Thanksgiving too, if I'm not mistaken.
I
So
think
they get
so. I
they
think
get
you're
to play
right.
in
I
Detroit
think
for two
I think
straight
you're right.
games.
So they might as well, yeah, because and the TV crews usually go and set up like a week ahead of schedule,
Yeah.
especially if the team's on the road or something like that. I think that's why.
They were actually talking about that on WFAN yesterday.
Yeah.
Carton was, and how he was so happy. I think the guy does the show with what's his name, Evan. He was talking about how he was so happy he put a bet in for the over because he anticipated the weather and thought that they may move the game to a dome, and it was 42.5 on the over under. But now because they're playing in a dome, it's 48.5. But he got to keep it at the 42.5 price.
Of course.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, great show as always, ladies and gentlemen. Want to thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. We had a great time. Next week, we've got a quick turnaround week, Thanksgiving Day, of course. And so we'll figure out if we'll do something on Friday. We'll have to see if we're all too stuffed or, what kind of mood we're in after the Dallas game.
Let's hope we're in a fantastic mood.
Hopefully, we will be in a fantastic mood. So it's going to be listen, the next few days is going to be a wild ride. I know I hate Thursday games because of the short work weeks, but for a football perspective, nothing better this time of year. More importantly, the Giants are relevant.
Yes.
Relevant.
Oh,
the games count for something.
Yeah.
We're not just counting down
about
into the
time.
next season. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Can you imagine when we do this show next week, whenever we do it? I don't know if we're going to do it before or after the Thanksgiving game. If it's before, how excited we're going to be going into that game if we win this week.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll have to figure out when we're going to do it. I mean, if we do it before, wow.
8-2 going into the Thanksgiving game against the Dallas Cowboys.
Be
Oh
fun.
my.
Are you kidding me?
Pretty good.
Oh,
How
you
much
my
more
God.
exciting will you be if you leave Dallas 9-2?
Oh,
Forget about it.
wow.
Yeah, I know.
I saw
Maybe
somebody
maybe
say
then
Rich
some people
Gannon.
believe.
That's not a bad one, Emilio. Rich Gannon. He had a little. Jones is more of a runner than Rich Gannon, but that's not a horrible one. I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
For Daniel.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I always have a blast coming on here. We're gonna win.
Yes.
Giants are getting 8-2.
Hell yes.
Second straight week at home. I think that plays a factor as well. And going into this game, I should have said it earlier. I'm a little bit where I was, and I guess I still am a little bit, that the New York Giants, it's a kind of a trap game because they're looking ahead to Thanksgiving. But I think Dable's going to have them prepared. And on the same side, the Detroit Lions could do the same thing because they're playing on Thanksgiving as well. So
Against Buffalo.
maybe they look ahead. So,
Maybe.
Right. They have
hopefully
Buffalo.
that'll
That
be
ain't an easy game.
Yep,
No.
exactly. So,
but we're going to win. We're going to win.
all right.
Yeah.
Tana, you got your scorecard ready?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Get your
go.
score. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for us here on Locked On Giants Live. Again, thank you for joining us. If we don't get back to you guys on the Locked On Giants Live program before Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
For Tana. Now, how'd I do it? Shoot. I already
Start
had
over.
to it.
Start over. You already
Start
got
over.
a 2. Start over.
How did I do it? For no, wait a minute. Oh, I am so bad at this stuff because I'm thinking about it. For Tana the dog, I'm Patricia Traina. We will see you guys hopefully next week. Happy Thanksgiving, and we enjoy the football game, everybody.
You got to work on that.
I got to work on that. Oh,
I think last week you
I'll
said
practice.
I think last week, Pat, it was for the dog Traina. Or for the dog and Traina. It's Patricia Traina.
Because I'm
This is how you got to say it.
Thinking of it.
I'm going to do it for you right now. You got to work on it. You're gonna watch this back. You're gonna practice. You're
You
gonna
study film. It's a
I'm
film
going to study film.
Thank you to everybody for watching. You guys were great tonight. LockedOn Giants podcast for the dog and Tana. It's Patricia Traina. We'll see you guys next week.
Right.
On that note, later. Bye.